You're in the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
With Gene and Chris in the Paracast, a little bit later we'll be talking with documentary producer James Fox, who is engaged in some fascinating projects. A lot to come there. And yes, we will ask him about the experience over at the Chasing UFOs show and have him answer your questions. That's later. Let's talk about things now. Now, as you know, listeners, a couple of weeks back, we featured this great debate between Kevin Randle and Scott Ramsey covering the alleged Aztec UFO crash. I say alleged, whether a UFO or anything, any kind of craft, crashed in Aztec, New Mexico in March of 1948. Now, one thing we didn't mention there, and I'd like to draw our listeners' attention to this. Kevin Randle has this blog called A Different Perspective at kevinrandle.blogspot.com, and we have always links for it over at theparacast.com. And there's a 3-part series there called Aztec in Perspective by Monty Shriver. Did you read that, Chris?
You know, Gene, now that you mention it, no, I haven't.
Okay, now let me tell you about Monty Shriver. He lived in Aztec. He grew up there. Okay? He grew up there. And one thing he can tell us, because he was around in 1948, I guess a preteen. He was around in 1948, and he certainly is not too old to remember his life. He has no memory, whatever, of anything untoward happening in or around Aztec in his youth in 1948. He doesn't know anybody who does. He went back to his 60th class reunion, and they couldn't remember it either. But what he did was read the book from Scott Ramsey with Suzanne Ramsey and Frank Warren and Dr. Frank Thayer, and also Bill Steinman's book on Aztec. And he kind of, sort of, disproved a lot of it. Number one is he pointed out that Ramsey's descriptions of roads, what roads were available then and where they went and that kind of stuff, a lot of that information was wrong. Sometimes just slightly, sometimes completely wrong. Okay? The locations of bridges, also kind of wrong. Now, what bothers me is Frank Warren had a detailed rebuttal that he made over some of the aspects of Shriver's article, but Ramsey never issued a rebuttal of this thing. We're left back with a real serious problem here of the fact that we have an earth-shattering event, allegedly.
Alleged.
The crash of a strange flying object in Hart Canyon near Aztec, New Mexico. We have a town where, you know, it's like any small town in America. People know people, nothing happens that people don't know about. Maybe they won't talk about it in mixed company, but if something like this happened, they'd know about it.
Word gets around.
Word would get around. The local newspaper would have some inkling of it. Maybe it was just a shopper, you know, a weekly thing with the local ads. But it would have local stories. Something like this is a national...
Something like that. Come on.
Oh, listen.
You know, the Durango papers, the Aztec paper, Farmington, they'd all be there. And it would probably hit the news services if something really happened and it came out.
Okay, now one piece of physical evidence, alleged again, that Scott Ramsey produces is this concrete slab. What was it used for? Now, he's suggesting it was used to anchor the excavation equipment. But you can't prove that. I mean, it doesn't matter what it was used for. Can you prove it was used to excavate a flying saucer? That's the point. It's not what it could have been used for. It is, can you prove it was used for that purpose? And I don't think you can. The other thing is here, the size of the equipment, and this guy, Shriver, has an engineering background, the size of the equipment you'd need would overhang the road by like 13 feet in each direction. So imagine something that large, transported like that in a multiple convoy, dozens and dozens of feet long. You're telling me that happens and nobody in the entire town knows about it?
Well, in that environment especially, because we're talking about semi-arid desert, there's not very many trees of loft, high trees, and something like that would be impossible especially for nearby ranches to not spot going by. I mean, that's huge.
I don't know. I mean, yes, Scott Ramsey has found a couple of people who claim to have witnessed something, but that's not enough to hang an entire case on. It's going to require a lot more, and we have the one problem that Kevin Randle mentioned during the interview. Let's understand it.
No, it's what I mentioned, and that is we don't have any information or any inkling of something happening pre-Scully.
And this is the problem. Now, if we look at debating points, who won that debate? Probably Ramsey, because he's been immersed in this case for 20 years. And Randall has read about it, but has not been immersed in the case for that long.
I think Randall actually came out ahead. He just sounded defensive, so it seemed like he didn't.
Well, he seemed to feel he did end up, as they say, a little bit less than Ramsey in terms of having everything on the table. But Ramsey also tried to bushwhack him with a couple of silly things like pronouncing somebody's name wrong, like Jabauer or something like that, which is ridiculous.
Or whatever it is. I mean, that's
Jabauer, Jabauer, whatever the heck it is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the facts. Now, I think at this point, unless or until Scott Ramsey can show us more than he has shown, I don't think there's anywhere to go with this case.
I agree.
I'm not saying that Ramsey's lying or anything else. I think the guy is sincere. I know a few people have attacked him. One person called him slippery as an eel in the way he handles a debate. So he's a smooth debater. Okay, that's fine. Let's look at the case. The evidence is not there to sustain the conclusion that a strange flying object crashed in Aztec. I know Frank Warren will not like that. I know that Scott Ramsey will not like that. But I think the onus is on them to provide more evidence, if it exists. And I think after all these years, unless you find evidence of a craft being held at some kind of secret government base, where do you go with it? Where do you take it? I think this is the end of it.
Yeah, so onwards and upwards.
Right. We'll have to ask E.T. E.T., did you have a problem with a flying saucer crashing in the New Mexican desert in 1948?
Earthlings, be good.
Well, you see, and we also have to wonder here about Roswell. Roswell, something happened, but I still think the evidence that it was extraterrestrial or something strange is not there yet. It could have been a flying saucer. It could also have been a test aircraft. That's not disproven.
Or body snatchers in the desert.
Exactly. Nick Redfern's theory. That's where you go about that.
Well, we're going to have fun today with our guest.
Oh, yes. Now, you met up with our guest in California just a few weeks ago.
I did. I went out to do an interview with a bunch of other really interesting folks, including Ann Druffel, who had the original Polaroid shots for the Rex Heflin photographs, which I found very fascinating. But James is working with Tracy Torme, of course, who did the Fire in the Sky Travis Walton movie, the show Sliders, was a executive story editor for Star Trek New Generation, blah, blah, blah. The two of them, powerhouses in any sort of ufological filmmaker sense, have dovetailed their efforts and partnered up for a new feature film with the working title 701, which are the number of unexplained Bluebook file cases. And they've been working on interviewing people and doing all the research. Of course, Tracy, the great writer that he is, will be writing the narration. And James had the distinct pleasure of spending over a week. Now, this boggles my mind. I must admire him for being able to hang that long. But he was out in the D.C. area, and he hung out with Ray Stanford for 8 days.
Ray Stanford for 8 days. That will take us 8 hours to discuss that on the show, and that's only part of it. Yes, imagine 8 days with Ray Stanford. That's a show and a half unto itself. James Fox coming up next. You're in
the Paracast.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
Friends, this is Alex Jones for MidasResources.com. For more than 15 years, I have exclusively used Midas Resources for all my precious metal needs. Whether it's bullion or collectibles you're looking for, Midas Resources is simply the best. I own my gold as a hedge against inflation. This Federal Reserve fiat currency could go the way of the Deutschmark and the Weimar Republic anytime. In these historically dangerous times, it makes sense to physically hold gold and silver. Midas already has some of the best deals in the industry. But if you give them a call and mention the radio special, they will give you a list of the day's super specials. Midas brokers are standing by to answer all your questions at 800-686-2237. They also have a lot of informative free literature explaining the opportunities and risk of holding precious metals. They are ready to answer your questions at 800-686-2237. Again, that's 800-686-2237.
Wouldn't it be nice to have one product that replaces more than 10, saving you space, time, and money? HempUSA.org has a complete full-spectrum vitamin mineral detox formulation called Micro Plant Powder Gold. Micro Plant Powder Gold contains 101 vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and iodine. Has a 100-year shelf life and is a perfect addition to any storage shelter. Make Micro Plant Powder Gold your choice. Call 888-910-4367 or visit HempUSA.org today.
HempUSA.org has a revolutionary wonder food for detoxing the body and rebuilding the immune system.
Microplant powder can help unclog arteries and soften heart valves while removing heavy metals, virus, fungus, bacteria, and parasites. Plus, it cleans and purifies the blood, lungs, stomach, and colon. Keep your body clean with Microplant powder. Order today at 888-910-4367 or visit HempUSA.org.
I have bought a few bottles of Heart and Body Extract and have to say that it certainly does work.
That's what Jack from Michigan had to say after his experience with heart pain and what he did to treat it with Heart and Body Extract.
I actually had a huge heart flutter. I was also having some edema around my ankles and very worrisome clot in my right leg that would happen from time to time. I was trying to sleep.
Heart and Body Extract is all natural with no negative side effects. It will help repair or correct past problems associated with the heart and body circulation.
After my second bottle of Heart and Body Extract, all problems are now gone.
Order at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305.
I ordered a third bottle of Heart and Body Extract for maintenance as I want to keep everything working.
Order Heart and Body Extract at 866-295-5305 or hbextract.com. Heart and Body Extract for a long and healthy life.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
A few days ago, we heard the sad news that one of our fellow travelers in paranormal radio, Kevin Smith, had died, apparently of a heart condition. We send out our sympathies to his friends and his family. Back on the Paracast with Gene and Chris, we welcome back James Fox, who's a movie producer and documentarian, and he's responsible for this new film called 701. We subtitle it The Number the Government Does Not Want You to Know, because these are the unsolved cases in Project Bluebook. James Fox, thank you for coming back on.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, I guess we got to ask this question. Let's get it finished first. Now, a lot of people were asking about one of your co-hosts, the female co-host on that show you did. But we'll get into that in a moment. Let's talk about the facts here. You get on a show called Chasing UFOs for National Geographic Channel, and you came on here and in other places, and you weren't too happy with the way things are, and then one of your co-hosts joined you in basically disparaging or attacking the show. So what happened there? Just kind of give us the Reader's Digest version, because we covered a lot of this in the previous segment.
Yeah, well, the ultimate realization of the project could not have been further from what was initially described to both me and Ben. You know, we detected that it started to move in the wrong direction, and we were just essentially powerless to change it. And it didn't even have a title for the first couple of months. And then they narrowed it down to, I think, 3 titles, and Ben and I were so opposed to the Chasing UFOs title, we were considering even, like, combining forces and just protesting. But, you know, unfortunately, we acquiesced. And then there was a lot of, you know, we understand, like, you know, with television that, you know, it's primarily entertainment. So we were, both Ben and myself, were hoping that we could infuse some entertaining aspects and also get in some good, pertinent information. But what ended up on the edit room floor was most of the good stuff, and all the sort of hyperbole ended up on the screen, which we were completely and utterly disappointed about. So we spoke out, and we spoke out rather early on. And, you know, I don't think that since that day that article came out of what Ben and I really felt about the show, I haven't spoken to the production, the guy and head of the production company after our initial conversation. I don't think I've talked to him since.
This is Chris here, James, and welcome to back to the show. I must say, it's the first time I have ever seen 2 principals, on-screen personalities, come out and question the editorial slant of a show that hasn't even been broadcast yet. I mean, literally, as that first show was broadcast, you and Ben were voicing publicly your reservations about the approach. And I must say, you know, I admire that kind of, you know, just sheer integrity that would allow you and Ben to do that. And I admire that. But I must say, and this is an aside, this is the first time I've ever heard of this happening ever on a big budget show like that.
Yeah, well, the officials, the execs at Nat Geo were less than pleased about the whole incident, and I actually wrote a very detailed email to the execs as to why we spoke out, and with references to emails and what was initially sold to us, and I gave examples for each and every episode that we had seen and why we were upset. And I remember when because the production company, basically, I'm not entirely sure what went down ultimately, whether it was the production company just keeping it in the dark, or whether it changed directions when there were some execs that had left Nat Geo and some new execs came on board. So maybe they changed the entire concept of the show. It's never been really clearly told to me, so I don't know. But
you never know what goes on the network level. One thing I must say, though, when I met you out in L.A., we were standing in the lobby of the hotel, and who did we happen upon but Aaron, the third principal in the show. And you whispered to me that had been the first time you had talked to her since the show aired, or went out of production.
Well, we did some promotional stuff. I'm not sure the exact. Yeah, if it was right afterwards, probably
right.
Afterwards.
But I found that very interesting that we should just be standing there, and all of a sudden we look over and guess who's there.
Yeah, that was a real weird coincidence, wasn't it?
And she was also one of the executive producers on the show. Correct me if I'm wrong.
She was a show runner. Yeah.
Right. She was the field producer, basically.
Yeah, they're basically the person that, and it's a difficult thing to do, to both appear and run the show.
Oh, yeah, it's impossible. But I can tell she's got a game face, big time, and she seemed very congenial, and I didn't detect any sort of animosity or anything from her. She seemed very sweet.
Well, yeah, she was involved with one of the owners of the production company, and after that show, some point during the show, I think they separated, and I got the impression, though I don't know for sure, that it was not a very amicable separation. So I don't know ultimately what level of her involvement was with the show, or whether she was. I don't know.
Interesting. Well, she seemed very, very gracious and very nice, and it was really a pleasure meeting her. How many shows were actually finally aired? 6?
8 shows.
8 shows were aired. Okay, and there was never any talk about revamping the show, possibly coming out with a second season or anything like that.
Well, I think that there was a lot of things going on internally. One of which was, I guess I'm at liberty to say this, but Ben has an incredible way of articulating his thoughts, and he essentially, for the most part, kind of refused to go on any media, do any interviews with further comments about, how he felt about the show. And then he added a little caveat, and he's like, and I'm not even sure, I can't remember exactly how he phrased it, but I thought, wow, that was really beautifully executed. Something about, I'm not even sure of any future involvement with at this point with me anyway. In other words, I don't think I'm ever going to go back to that show. And he said that to the execs very early on. So they kind of kept him out of the limelight, but he did it in a very diplomatic way. Yeah, well, it's you live and learn, and I was warned going into it that these things happen, and I thought that it would be different, and I was wrong.
All right, so the point is here, there will never be a second season of Chasing UFOs, right?
I think the execs realized that it was extremely unlikely that we would even participate, and then I wrote a very detailed email, which I never had a response to the execs, explaining my position and why I spoke out. And gave plenty of
that was a huge, examples. You had a huge budget for the show, right? I mean, that was a big budget show.
That was one of the things that bothered me more than anything else is that, from someone who's done documentaries independently and known, what it takes, and, the amount of money that was spent on that show and what I could have done with that money, my God. It could have been a really incredible opportunity. And I thought that Nat Geo would have a bit more integrity. But ultimately, they're just interested in selling advertising space, and what sells is, you look at some of the shows that are doing extremely well, their ratings, and you just think, my God, wow.
Hey, it's the great American pubic.
If what the American public is eating up, then, boy, I'm in the wrong field.
I'm going to ask you a few more questions before we go into your current project, but we have James Fox joining us with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
If you want to get your website online and you need reliable service, first-class service at the lowest possible price, there's only one place to go. Well, DreamHost has a special promotion with our show where they'll offer you unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click web apps such as WordPress, 24/7 support. You can save over $55. You want to know how? Go to dreamhost.com/radio, dreamhost.com/radio. Whether it's personal mail, whether it's business email, you want reliable, dependable delivery, freedom from spam, freedom from viruses. Well, Polaris Mail offers professional email hosting services for your personal or small business use. Each account uses 25 gigabytes of storage, an easy-to-use webmail interface, and full mobile sync. Sign up today for a 30-day free trial at polarismail.com, polarismail.com.
There are those curious about Bitcoins and those using and making money with Bitcoins. What are Bitcoins? A Bitcoin is the first decentralized currency that can be easily transferred from person to person over the internet. No bank needed. This means lower fees, and accounts can never be frozen, limited, or closed. You are in control of your money. And the best part? You can start earning and making money with Bitcoins right away. No computer or expertise is required to earn money with Bitcoins, and a growing number of merchants now accept Bitcoins. Plus, they're easily exchanged for dollars, euros, and more. Learn more about the easiest, cheapest, most profitable way to enter the Bitcoin market and get paid every 2 weeks by one of the fastest growing Bitcoin miners in the world at cloudhashing.com. Just like it sounds, cloudhashing.com. That's cloudhashing.com. We mine your business.
For over 5 years, you've been hearing about the Berkey Guy, so you may know a few things about him. For example, you are well aware of the superior quality and effectiveness of Berkey water filters and accessories. But did you know the Berkeys have had independent lab tests done to prove just how effective they are? It's true, and he can email you the test results. Just visit goberkey.com. You may also know that the Berkey Guy has helped tens of thousands of people get better prepared. Now here's something you may not know. GoBerkey.com has amazing specials and deals all the time on a wide variety of survival and preparedness products. Most ready to ship same day. Visit the Berkey Guy at GoBerkey.com and be sure to click the red Products on Sale Now button. You can always call toll-free 877-886-3653. Again, that's 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com, home of the Berkey Guy.
Summertime is sale time at Herbal Healer Academy. Current customers know this is the time to save big and stock up at herbalhealer.com. New customers, welcome to the web's best place to save on vitamins, minerals, and more. Right now, Herbal Healer's summer specials include our 500 parts per million colloidal silver, all sizes on sale. CoQ10 with Hawthorne, colon enhancer, sea cucumber, Super Fem and Super Male Plex, plus glucosamine chondroitin, our best-selling liquid CalMag vitamin B, and our colloidal minerals, all on sale for summer at herbalhealer.com. And Herbal Healer also offers certificate correspondence courses in natural medicine. Enjoy same-day shipping and free online newsletter. Log on to our nation's leader in supplying quality natural medicine and education since 1988. Herbal Healer Academy at herbalhealer.com.
Hi, this is Don Ecker, and you are tuned into the Paracast. Let me tell you what, you're going to hear stuff here that you probably won't hear anywhere else. Hear that, George Snorri?
On the Paracast with Gene and Chris, James Fox, motion picture, documentary producer, director, and star. Now, the other question I have of you, James, and this is obviously something that you've probably considered, having spoken out against the production, Chasing UFOs, does that make it more difficult for you to get other projects?
Certainly in the industry, in that particular industry, I've worked independently most of my life, so I've never had to worry about those types of things. But in terms of like getting another gig like that, I think I would be looked at as a liability. So probably yes.
Or at least if they come back to you, they make it very clear what the ground rules are at the beginning and provide something that at least is favorable. Now, understand here, based on what you told me, I don't want to get into details, even though they apparently had a big budget for this, the talent didn't get a lot of money from this project.
No, so that's a whole other issue. If you look at the percentage of what was spent on each episode as to what, it was not commensurate with our contribution, in my opinion, by a long shot. I mean, I would guess to say it's somewhere in the realm of $350,000 per episode, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. I'm not entirely sure. Then you've got all the budget that was spent on promotional. I mean, I don't even know how much they spent on promotion. I mean, it must have been a lot. You can't help but think, boy, what I could do with these kind of funds.
So much for commercial TV, but other people attacked other UFO documentary shows, like, for example, UFO Hunters. That was the one Bill Burns was involved in. And it had some interesting parts, but sometimes they overlooked less than favorable details about some cases to make it look better. And they took Chris, for example, and they interviewed him, and suddenly they miraculously transported everything he was talking about from where? New Mexico to Arizona.
I think there's a terminology in the production world for that, Frankenbites. And that happened, and I noticed because one of the clauses at the last minute I put in the contract was that I would have oversight of some of the content that I brought to the table. Okay.
Oh,
now that didn't mean that it would give me.
They signed that?
Well, it was only the interviews, the people that I brought to the table, right? And I noticed on, I think, one of the second or third episodes, and they wouldn't show me the whole thing. They would show me just snippets, just the tiny snippets. And I noticed someone saying something that was Frankenbit. They just edited into saying, make it look like he's saying one thing, and I just put my foot down. I was like, what the hell is this? And they all passed it around. Oh, that must have been the previous editor that we fired, and that was an oversight. And then I said, well, somebody has to be held accountable for this. This is making someone say something they didn't say, and that's so unacceptable. What are you guys thinking? You know, especially with my name on this thing, and I raised hell about it. And but, you know, you can't catch all these things, and then you're kept out of the loop in the edit room for the most part, and it's incredibly frustrating. And, you know, who knows what goes back and forth. That's why you're an independent film producer and director, so you can do your own projects and stand behind the content.
And I should point out here that cropping or editing or putting words in people's mouths, it's not just in reality shows. In the mainstream media, there have been a few notorious cases where they'll take somebody's words and they will telegraph them. Somebody says something, and all the stuff around it that explains what that means is removed so they can change the meaning and have it mean something totally different. It's not unusual.
It's really, really, it's diabolical, in my opinion. I mean, it's absolutely, you know, it just makes you realize they're not concerned at all about accuracy of content. It's just, does it fit into their little storyline, and does it, no regard for accuracy or no integrity for the witnesses. It's really unfortunate, really, really unfortunate. It seems like it's getting even worse. So,
well, the one thing that really stuck out to me is when you guys are going out searching for physical evidence, you're doing it in 3 inches of water with lipstick cams in your face at night. That, to me, it just, from that first episode on, it was totally trash. And the other thing was the great footage that you got of that weird circulating light in the sky, in the clouds, which looked to me to be real footage, and we never heard anything about it again.
Oh, I could give you case after case after case of every single episode of, you know, no further analysis. I mean, I'll give you one point right now, which just guts me to talk about, but, you know, when Travis Walton agreed to do the show, he only did it because of me. And he said, okay, well, I'll do it, and I'll take you guys to the site, provided that you do analysis work on these anomalous tree ring growths at the epicenter of where I saw the craft. And there was clearly something anomalous or something that caused these, you know, trees in that immediate area to grow a lot faster. And you can clearly see that by this, you know, the tree ring growth. And he's like, I just want to know further analysis work on this, and that's, you know, and then everyone agreed that was going to happen, and then nothing ever happened with that in post. It's like they just, like, you know, mentioned it briefly and then didn't do any follow-up analysis work. Zero, nada, nothing. And I could give you case after case for every single episode where that happened. I mean, Frank Kimbler, okay, New Mexico geologist, he found what might possibly be debris from wherever it was that crashed at Roswell. Pretty significant thing, don't you think? And preliminary analysis came back on some of the bits of metal that he had in his possession of the magnesium isotopes being possibly, not definitively, possibly outside of what's found on Earth, but he needed further analysis that he couldn't afford to do. And I can't remember I don't know the exact terminology. I have to look up in my notes. But we found a lab in Los Angeles that would agree to do that, and for free, provided, you know, we plugged their company, which was, I mean, God, no brainer, right? Well, all Frank Kimbler wanted was to be able to personally hand over this debris to the lab, which just requires a flight, okay? And
you document your evidence chain. That's huge.
From New Mexico,
it's really important.
Total reasonable request, and I kept getting mixed stories from the production company, and then Frank would call me. Of course, I'm in touch with Frank, and I'm going, Frank's like, well, that's not what's happening at all. I told him that I was gladly willing to hand the stuff over. I just wanted to do it in person. So all I basically needed was approval to get him an airline. He was like, I'll even take care of my
own. Like a $200 round-trip flight.
Yeah, ridiculous, right? Couldn't get them to do it. So the very reason that he participated in our show was to have further analysis done on his bits of metal. That's what he wanted. And we didn't, and we said we'd do it, and we didn't do it. And I could give you case after case. I mean, it was just absurd. Like absurd. It was so frustrating. So,
well, is there any hope for broadcast television in all the cable channels covering, paranormal subjects in general, but UFOs in particular? Is there any hope for them to do it correctly?
I don't think they care. Yeah, I just don't think that the executives care one way or the other at all, whether or not, there's any real evidence or any analysis that would prove one way or the other. It's just entertainment, the bottom line.
Yeah, they're filling spaces in between commercial blocks.
Exactly. So incredibly frustrating, you guys. And I can go on. I mean, what can I say? I went on board with a lot of people telling me that, we didn't even know we were going to do the night investigation, so we got out in the field, and Ben and I were looking at each other going, scratching our heads like, you want us to what? Oh, well, it's just a small section of the thing, and people really like, from the comfort of their couches to look at people out of... We kind of play, I got to be honest, we played along with it, thinking it would be a very small element of the piece, and maybe once or twice it actually made sense, but 99% of the time it didn't make any sense at all. And it was very frustrating for both Ben and I,
Well, that leads me to a question, James, from forum.theparacast.com, where we post a thread for our forum participants to go ahead and fire off some questions. And we have a couple of really interesting ones regarding chasing UFOs.
I'll tell you what, Chris, we are going to be out of time in about 20 seconds. So let's leave that as the cliffhanger, that we have a number of questions from our listeners at forum.theparacast.com in the question bank of our guest, James Fox. He's involved with Tracy Torme in this new film 701 that we'll talk about once we get the chasing UFO stuff out of the way. How about that, neighbors? With Gene and Chris, you're in
The Paracast.
America's #1 source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
Is there a secret UFO agenda? Do strange creatures from the darkest corners of the mind roam the earth? Is there evidence for mind control, time travel, or devious government conspiracies? Find out the inside scoop on the latest conspiracies, paranormal activity, and Freudian phenomena when you subscribe to Tim Beckley's Conspiracy Journal. It's jam-packed with stories, special book and DVD promotions, and the best news, it's absolutely free, sent right to your mailbox. Plus, a bonus free email newsletter sent out every Friday. Simply send an email with your name and address to Mr. UFO at webtv.net. That's Mr. UFO at webtv.net. Find out what they don't want you to know.
You've thought about it for years. Well, the time is now. You need a secret bunker, and you need it deep and strong. Atlas Survival Shelters should be your first and only choice. The experts at Atlas can help you choose a shelter that has all the comforts of your home and is 11 times stronger than square box shelters. Call Atlas at 1-855-4BUNKERS. 1-855-4BUNKERS. Or visit IWantThatBunker.com. Atlas Survival Shelters. Better prepared than scared.
Ceramic body armor is rated to stop 6 hits. But what about the 7th? Unlike ceramic or Kevlar, Infidel body armor is proven to take hit after hit, and it just won't quit. Reasonably priced and designed for the smart civilian prepper, Infidel stops hundreds of hits from small arms to high-powered rifles. That means safety and peace of mind. Buy yours at InfidelBodyArmor.com. Spelled INFIDEL bodyarmor.com. Infidel body armor just won't quit.
Are you still a traditional smoker? Now experience a new lifestyle and try vaping with e-cigarettes by LeSig. Imagine no ashes, stains, nasty smell, or coughing and hacking. With LeSig e-cigarettes' revolutionary microelectronic technology, rechargeable battery, and unique replaceable cartridge, you'll get all the benefits and satisfaction of smoking without the hazards. Choose your taste from a wide variety of our new American-made vape-free e-liquids at LeSig.com. And LeSig smokes the competition by serving thousands of worldwide worldwide customers with real people customer service, fast, free, same-day shipping, and a 30-day warranty and satisfaction guarantee. So are you ready for a new vaping lifestyle? Then call 870-518-4307. That's 870-518-4307. Or visit lecig.com, spelled LECIG.com. LeCig e-cigarettes for today's modern smoker.
A little over a year ago, I began to do a lot of research into why, even though I had a pretty good-sized meal, that I was still starving. And my research led me to a well-known fact that most of the soils that we grow our crops on here in the United States and across the industrialized world are almost completely depleted of almost all of the key minerals and trace elements that our bodies need to rebuild themselves, fight off cancer, and be healthy. I then searched out the best vitamin and mineral company out there and discovered Youngevity. The Youngevity products are designed to give you the real nutrition you need, and once you've got that, you don't have to eat as much to be satisfied. I've lost 37 pounds in 2 months, simply getting the vitamins and minerals I need. Check it out for yourself. It's incredible. Go to InfoWarsTeam.com today and order your first canister of Beyond Tangy Tangerine Complete Multivitamin Mineral Complex Dietary Supplement. That's InfoWarsTeam.com.
This is Kurt Sotheby, author of UFO Mysteries, and you're listening to the Paracast.
We're happy to have James Fox back. As you see, he doesn't pull any punches. Not at all. He tells you what he thinks. And Chris and I noted to our listeners only hours before this episode was being recorded that James Fox would be here on this episode, and we got hit with a number of questions. Chris.
We did. Okay, this one, James, comes from Gogs Mackay, who's one of our forum moderators, and he wants to know, what do you think of Stan Romanek now that you've met him, and specifically, do you think the Boo Alien at the Window video is legit? And I must say, they kind of punked you on this whole deal.
Yeah. That, it's really funny because, you first of all, you forget a lot of times that you're being recorded from every possible angle. And, it's late at night, middle of the night, and you're thinking in the back of your mind, your rational side is like, this is most probably not, any authenticity to, one way or the other. And I don't want to, comment. Anyway, let's just put it this way. In the back of my mind, there's a little what if. And when I first saw one of the, now granted, I'm looking at about 5-6 different monitors, and you're seeing some of them in your peripheral vision, and I see something, and my brain just kind of deleted it and ignored it. And then a beat later, it happened again, and this time I got both eyes on it, and I clearly saw on one of the surveillance black and white monitors what looked rather similar to what I'd seen with Stan Romanek. And no one had told me they were going to, I didn't have any indication at all that I was going to be punked on this thing. I really didn't. And I couldn't get in touch with anybody else. And I saw it, and it's funny because the only thing my brain had to relate to it was what I'd seen with Stan Romanek. So my brain kind of filled in the blanks, and I actually thought that I'd seen articulated eyes or something move, and my initial reaction was, come on, man, someone's got to be messing with me. Then I couldn't get in touch with anyone, and I thought, I definitely saw something. What on earth could that have possibly been, And,
I think that's a perfect illustration of witness bias. Our minds do fill in the blanks when we are, when we're put face to face with something inexplicable in our minds, we tend to fill in the blanks. So, I'm not surprised at all that happened. What do you think of Romanek, though? You got a chance to spend some time with him, and I'm going to be spending the weekend with him, actually, just kind of by coincidence. Well, what do you think of his case? Have you looked into it? The mathematical formula and some of the weird claims that he's made about, replacing the siding on his house and just some bizarre stuff. What do you think?
Well, let's see. Going back to the, I'm suspicious of the alien in the window video. My gut tells me that either someone was playing a practical joke on him. There are elements of his story that I have no doubt that he sincerely believes are true. And there are some inexplicable or seemingly inexplicable events that have occurred to him that I am convinced that he believes is sincere and happened. Having said that, it's like I did Out of the Blue, and there's a guy named James O. Berg who discounted the entire film because I screwed up on a date with Mercury astronaut Gordon Cooper, basically saying, look, if James can't get this right, he clearly didn't get anything else right, and dismissed the rest of the film based on that I screwed up on.
That's typical for James Oberg, so let's not go further than that.
So whether or not there are any elements there relating to Stan's case or not, I just, I haven't looked into it enough to say definitively one way or the other. But having met him, he seems like a sincere guy that really believes something truly inexplicable is going down. But I just don't know enough about the case to make an educated comment one way or the other.
Well, looking at his response during the initial stages of that footage, when the alien pops up in the window, it looks like, he must be a really good actor in order to feign that kind of surprise. I mean, it looked real legit in terms of what was going on inside the room.
You saw what somebody did to me, and my response looked pretty legit, didn't it?
Right. So, it's just interesting how the observer effect can go, a long way in this realm. So you think your jury's out, basically, in your mind?
The thing is, it's hard to comment on something like that. I like Stan as a person. He seems like a really nice guy, and his family's been nothing but sweet and caring and all the rest of it. And I just don't know enough about it. All I can say is that the alien in the window, there's something about it that just seems a little off to me, and I can't quite pinpoint it. I can't make an educated comment on it.
Well, here's another question from Gogs Mackay. He asked, do you have an explanation of how such huge cases such as Stevensville can happen and yet not be taken seriously by major media? You met with some really compelling witnesses down there, and I was very, very taken with, what I observed to be real sincerity. These people actually had highly unusual, unexplained experiences with objects flying over, and particularly at that kind of town meeting that you had, I was really taken by the sincerity there. What do you think about that? Why hasn't that case blown up in the media like it should?
Well, it's interesting because one of the aspects of that case that's never seen the light of day was a personal experience I had while in Stephenville. I think it was the third or fourth time I was there. And I was shooting down by the town hall. And after I did a little shoot with Ricky Sorrells, this gentleman walked up to me, opened up his wallet, and flashed his badge. He said, "I'm Officer so-and-so, and I'd like to have a word with you for a minute." And I thought, oh boy, what did I do wrong here? And he pulls me aside. I tell people on the set that were working there, I said, "Hey, I'll be right back." And he and I go to a little cafe down the street. And he says, "I want you to know that you're on the right path." He said, "I'm a police officer in the area." And there were 5 other, I think either 4 or 5 other police officers in the area that saw that thing. Ricky is telling the truth. I can tell you right now, we all saw it. We not only saw it, he said it was so low and so huge. I took out my radar gun and I zapped it with my radar gun and determined the speed was at 22 miles an hour. And he said he described it as being the size of either 1 or 2 department stores. Absolutely huge. And very slow, very low. He said that one of the officers used his car cam and pointed it up into the sky through the windscreen and actually videotaped it. And that videotape was brought back to the station. And then they were notified, I guess, by the local military base there. And they took that footage, and then they were all told not to ever talk about it. He said, "I could never go on the record with this, James, but I just wanted you to know that you're on the right path," and that really did happen.
That's really compelling, and it may dovetail into my next observation, which is supposedly some of these overflights violated secured airspace over the Crawford Ranch that the W. Bush had down there.
Well, when you have that kind of personal confirmation, and I've had it on a number of cases, And the guy doesn't want any money. He doesn't want any notoriety. He doesn't want his name used. He doesn't want to be referenced. He doesn't want to go on camera. He just wants me to know that I'm on the right path. You know, you kind of have to ask yourself, why on earth would this police officer pull me aside to tell me that? Do you know what I mean? I'll give you another example. I was investigating the Varginha case. I think it was 1996 in Varginha, Brazil. And I got the opportunity to meet with a General Jose Carlos Pereira, I think was his name. He was very tight-lipped about the Varginha case. He just pretty much gave a big no comment. He's like, I'm at the Air Force. That was an Army affair. On camera, he wouldn't go into it. He talked about other significant cases that occurred in Brazil, but he wouldn't go into that one. And after the interview, we did it in a hangar in Sao Paulo Airport. And it was about a 5 to 10 minute walk back to the parking lot where this general's car was waiting for him. So I grabbed a translator and I walked back to the car with this general. No cameras rolling, just the translator and myself. And the translator told the general, the general knew who I was based on what the translator had told him. And I looked him dead in the eyes and I said, please, General, tell me about the Varginha case. And I looked him right in the eyes, and he patted me on the shoulder as he got into the back of his car, and he said, it happened. And he got in his car, and off he went. Now, I couldn't even use that in a documentary film, but having experienced it and having looked into this general's eyes and that little just that little validation, and then after having met the witnesses, but a lot of this stuff clearly couldn't be used in any of the document. You know what I mean?
I do, and we'll continue with this discussion in our next segment.
We have James Fox joining Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Are you tired of searching for great talk radio?
Something more important.
Search no more. We are the GCN Radio Network.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. If you'd like to listen to GCN programs on the go, I have great news. GCN has created a Droid and iPhone application, and it's free. Just as easy as going to GCNlive.com, click on the banner, and download. Before you know it, you'll be listening to your favorite hard-hitting GCN shows, live or on demand, right on your Droid or iPhone, 24/7 and on the go. So download the Droid and iPhone app free by clicking on the banner at GCNlive.com. Thanks again for listening to GCNlive.com. Again, that's GCNlive.com. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
There's a huge and hushed up conspiracy going on that's about to turn your lives upside down in the coming few months. Unbelievably, the media are keeping quiet about this. I'm sure they know it, but they probably know that revealing it on TV will generate mass hysteria and chaos. But I believe you should be informed about it, because when the sinister agenda is finally accomplished and everything unravels, only those who know this secret info will survive and thrive. Go to 123conspiracy.com right now to see the truth. The video at 123conspiracy.com reveals the real secret reason why Obama is after your guns and ammo. And it's not just in response to mass murders of preparing for war. It's something much darker. Go watch the video now at 123conspiracy.com before they shut it down. Again, that's 123conspiracy.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
So we have James Fox, motion picture producer, director, specializing in documentaries, working on a project called 701 with Tracy Torme and others. And right now, we were focusing on Varginha, right?
Yes, yeah. I was just talking about little personal confirmations that I've had with certain things, and it really kind of keeps me going. And some of the validations that I've had, I can't even, use in any of my films. But I've had him in Russia, and I've had him in South America, and I've had him in, America. I've had him in England. And it's just, you're kind of off the record when you've got a high-ranking officer or a police officer or someone who worked at the MOD or whoever it might be, off the record telling you these things. It really kind of keeps you going.
Well, we've got a bunch of stuff to keep us going here in this week's episode of the Paracast, and I just, I've been waiting here, just biting my knuckle for the chance to ask you about the 8 days that you spent with Ray Stanford in Maryland, including several trips to the National Archives, some of which what you discovered I don't think we should talk about now, but it's just bombshell stuff. What did you think of Ray?
Well, it's funny. Ray did not. He was not at all keen on going to the National Archives with me, and he kept saying, "It's been sanitized. We're not going to get anything new. If it was anything good that was there, we'd know about it. Some previous researcher would have found it." And I said, "Ray, if anyone could find what we're looking for, it's going to be you." And I just had this gut feeling.
And boy, were you right.
I said, talk about a close attention to detail. That guy has a way of seeing things that are in plain sight, but overlooked by everybody else. And I know that Ray has gotten a lot of flack over the years for certain aspects of certain claims in his book. Well, I can tell you right now, I can't reveal exactly what, but I can tell you that there was a validation from a document in the National Archives, which we scanned and took with us, that brought a tear to Ray's eyes, that will settle something once and for all. And
big time, huge thing. But just in general, I mean, when I met up with you, and for the you and Tracy were having all those folks out to interview in L.A. A month or so ago, you mentioned that you were going to cover the Socorro case, of course, the famous Lonnie Zamora case of '65, which Ray was on site within a couple of days and wrote a whole book about it. And you mentioned you wanted to cover that case, and I said, "Well, James, are you going to talk to Ray Stanford?" And you said, "Ray who?" basically, and I said, "You got to give this guy a call," and you really stuck with it. You gave him a call. You had to go out to the D.C. area anyway, so you were able to go out there. And it's like the guest that arrived and didn't want to leave for a week. I mean, you were there back and forth once or twice, but you spent 8 days.
I was there for, I think I was there the better part of 10 days.
Yeah,
I took a couple days off.
Pretty much 8 to 10 days. Well, I mean, you got the full Ray Monty. Everybody on the Paracast kind of, when they hear Ray Stanford, they roll their eyes and go, yeah. It's, Chris has obviously drank the Ray Kool-Aid. He's genuflect at the Ray Stanford fan club and blah, blah, blah. I get a lot of disparaging remarks about my absolute conviction that this guy is the most important person in ufology. What did you think?
I have never met anyone with an attention to detail in my entire life like Ray Stanford. And just give I'll tell you one thing with the Socorro, New Mexico case. Any controversy that I've ever heard regarding any claims or any details in his book were quickly explained so thoroughly and so unequivocally with all the evidence and the letters and the photographs and the original. I mean, the guy has kept the most
physical
detailed
evidence.
Yeah, evidence that I've ever seen on any case, other than the only place you might find something better, or maybe you wouldn't, would be the archives in the Pentagon. I mean, he kept the rock where the landing gear hit. He kept the bits of paper scorched paper from the landing site. He kept letters from, Lonnie Zamora was very kind of tight-lipped, I guess, even with his own family. Well, Ray's got letters from Lonnie Zamora's daughter, which he kept from 1981 and even more recent stuff. He's got correspondence with Richard T. Holder's kids, regarding the incident and regarding other aspects of the case that nobody else really knows about.
Right, the
and
Army
I think a lot
investigation. Everybody thinks the Air Force investigated the case, but the Army is holding on to most of the
the Army is holding on to it, and there were a lot of other agencies that were there as well that were investigating the case.
What'd you think of the photographs? The one of him taking a picture of J. Allen Hynek taking a photograph, and Hynek's picture, which Ray also has, that was taken within a second of Ray's picture. They both show what?
They both show these anomalous objects in the sky, and it was quite remarkable that not only did his photograph that he took of Hynek taking a photograph in the same direction from the backside of Hynek, but Hynek's photograph, which I believe is in the archives, is there as well. And there are photographs in the archives of Ray Stanford at the landing site within a couple of days of the incident. And I think Ray had kind of overlooked that till he got the higher resolution version of both photographs of these anomalous objects in the air right around the landing site within, I think, 3 days. But that's just the tip of the iceberg.
It was when they were both there, 3 days afterwards. And he didn't recognize that there were objects there, as you're saying, until a few years ago. I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago when he finally was able to digitize the image and blow it up. And then he found the anomalous object. He got access, or I think he was sent Hynek's original one side of a stereo camera photograph, which you're referring to, and then he observed that, blew it up, and the same anomalous objects are in two separate photographs from two different analog cameras.
Absolutely remarkable. And then not only that, but, there was, I'm not a physicist or a scientist, but Ray had the most plausible explanation I've ever heard, along with evidence, photographic and film evidence, of the possible methods these objects use to zip around in the sky without creating a sonic boom, doing right-angle turns at high speed. Those explanations were validated with other things I think that NASA was discovering around the time that I don't even know how to describe it. Is it like somehow electrifying the atmosphere around them that causes a little vacuum that opens up and allows these things?
It's the air spike that was patented by Leek Mirabeau from Rensselaer Tech. The story was written about in Chris Lambright's book, X Descending. But Leek Mirabeau found out the information by observing Ray's presentation, and he all of a sudden realized, hey, these objects are shooting a beam of plasma ahead of it, which is like the bow of a ship. It creates the atmosphere going around the object, negating the sonic boom, which he went on and patented.
I told Ray, I said, I'll never look at these things through the same filter after having, and I just got the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I spent, the better part of 8 or 10 days with Ray, and he just, he has spent thousands of hours analyzing these things, and he's a scientist. He's a very scientific, and it was incredible. It was an incredible experience. It was incredible with the level of scrutiny that Ray gives things, and I think that people that are easily can criticize need to sort of step back and put their judgment aside and review some of the evidence that he has, because I think it was quite phenomenal.
So much more to talk about. We have James Fox, and he's part of this new project called 701. The number of sightings listed as unidentified in Project Bluebook, but there are probably thousands that can't be explained.
So maybe he has to do a sequel movie called 7001 or 700,001.
With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
Gold. If you listen to the radio, watch TV, or surf the net, you are hearing about gold. Eventually you will ask yourself, is gold right for me? The answer might surprise you. We protect ourselves and our families from many things. Do you have medical insurance? Is your home insured? Do you carry life insurance? How about financial insurance? If you own gold, then the answer is yes. If you don't own gold, the question is, why don't you have financial insurance? We put our faith in things we trust. Do you trust the dollar? Do you trust the economy? Do you trust the government? Gold has always been something you can trust. For thousands of years, people have put their faith in gold. Where will you put your faith? Now is the time to protect yourself and your family. Call Midas Resources today at 1-800-686-2237, extension 242. 1-800-686-2237, extension 242. And ask for Jim Parker. Let me help you get started today. 1-800-686-2237, extension 242.
Got a simple question for you. Can you sell? Yes? Okay. Can you sell the intangible? If yes, and you'd like to work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, with no overtime, no weekends, if you're passionate about not closing sales, but about opening relationships, if you truly have a desire to serve global clients who need your advertising expertise, and you're local to the Twin Cities and Burnsville, are hardworking, self-driven, with experience in sales, marketing, or advertising, are personable and a whiz on the phone, GCN wants to talk with you right now. GCN, the Genesis Communications Network, is one of the largest independent talk radio networks in the world, and we're hiring right now. We offer benefits and an excellent commission structure. Experience preferred, but we'll train the right person. Is that you? Submit your resume today to advertise@gcnlive.com. Again, that's advertise@gcnlive.com. Come work with the Genesis Communications Network, an equal opportunity employer.
Great news, pure water lovers. BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com has a special discount offer for all GCN listeners. You can't do better than a Big Berkey for economy. For only 1.7 cents a gallon, a single set of filters can last for 5 to 10 years. There's none better than a Big Berkey for emergency preparedness as a backup water source. And you just can't beat a Big Berkey to remove dangerous chlorine, all types of fluoride, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, parasites, and unhealthy byproducts from municipal water. Berkey water filter systems are even powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water. For the gold standard in water filters, get a Big Berkey at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. And all GCN listeners get 5% off all ceramic filter systems. For details, call 1-877-99-BERKEY. That's 877-99-BERKEY. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And if you'd like to catch up on past episodes, we have hundreds of shows for you to download direct from theparacast.com. That's theparacast.com. Or check us out at iTunes.
With Gene and Chris on the Paracast with James Fox, who spent 8 very fascinating days with Ray Stanford, who wrote a book, of course, about the Socorro, New Mexico case. And those of us who have heard and worked with Ray Stanford on the Paracast during his appearances here, James Fox, I have to ask you a question. Okay, during those 8 days, were you able to have a chance to utter even a sentence or two? Because he talks up a storm.
Well, he is a walking encyclopedia, no question about it. It's amazing how
with a photographic memory,
names, dates that he remembers. But I have to take credit here. I did get a couple words in, enough to drag him to the National Archives, break him away from his home environment, And I'd say we spent several days at the National Archives uncovering some amazing aspects to the whole case. But he definitely can talk. He's got a lot to say.
Now, looking at Sakharov, I gather from what you're saying, James, without going into every exquisite detail, that he has a lot more information than he published in that book.
Yes, absolutely. And there's things that keep coming. There's more information that keeps coming. He had a video that he showed me, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not. Gosh, I don't know what I can say. But let's just say he had a video of a sit-down interview that he did with Dr. J. Allen Hynek in the 70s that I don't think has ever seen the light of day, that reveals aspects, that reinforces his book and reveals aspects of his book and the case that a lot of people don't know about. Hynek's endorsement of his work and what he accomplished that the Air Force did not. And Hynek even gives the impression that his hands were tied on a number of cases, on a number of incidences of that case, one of which I think involved the occupants that were seen. I tell you right now, anyone that has any doubt of any information presented in that book spends any time with Ray Stanford, that doubt will be quickly gone.
I was going to ask here, James, did you at all bring up with Ray Stanford that article from a fellow who says it was possibly a hoax by college students? Oh, yeah. Yeah, he addressed that. I think that's one of the reasons why Ray came out from hiding with the whole case. I think he literally said, I had to step in and squash that whole thing immediately. You know, and it's just a joke. I mean, that's just, it's not even worth even wasting any words on that whole theory, because it couldn't be further from the truth, and anyone who spends even 5 minutes with some of the evidence will quickly dismiss that. I mean, that's just absolute hogwash. Now, I should mention, in all fairness, we've invited Tony Bergalia, who wrote that article, to come on the Paracast, and he's given us many reasons why he can't, but the point being that he has not accepted that invitation, so there you go. Well,
Hey, I'd like to see him
go up against Ray on that.
I wouldn't want to debate Ray on Sakharov. No way.
Absolutely not. Ray's got every letter, every document, things that even have aspects of the case that haven't even seen the light of day, and he's kept everything. I've never seen anyone keep such meticulous records. He can back up everything. The
vitrified rock, where the quartz crystals have been melted into glass. I mean, from the actual ground where the engine fired up and the flame, instead of bouncing off the ground, sliced directly into the earth when it took off. And when it went to hover and then took off, Ray collected samples of the rock, and the quartz crystals within those, in situ in the matrix, are vitrified and melted.
Yeah, I can't. I looked at all the paper and the rock, and then the diagrams. I mean, I've got from the National Archives. We've got. I mean, this is just amazing, you guys, because I'm looking at documents from Richard T. Holder's investigation. He was on the site within an hour and a half, and it's got diagrams written on the landing gear, footprints in the soft sand from the alleged occupants, letters from mentioning the top secret nature of this case, references from Wright-Patterson Air Force, Foreign Technology Division, making inquiries with every known agency that could have been remotely responsible for that craft, all of which responding, that's definitely not ours. Clearly, in the National Archives, the Air Force was scrambling to come up with a prosaic explanation of this case and couldn't, and never could. So anyone who says, anything, I mean, obviously we can't definitively say what it was, but you can damn well say what it wasn't. And all the evidence points to the fact that it was not of Earth origin.
Well, okay, so let's go into that one thing, and we can always argue the point of origin. But what makes you think, based on what you saw, all the time you spent with Ray Stanford, that it was not of Earth origin?
Well, I mean, you've got the Dr. J. Allen Hynek's comments. You've got Richard T. Holder's comments. You've got all the letter of correspondence between Foreign Technology Desk. You've got clearly there were inquiries being made from the Office of the President, members of Congress, the media. You've got the Air Force scrambling to come up with an explanation, a prosaic earthly explanation. They clearly couldn't. You've got the whole paper trail documenting that. You've got the footprints in the ground. You've got the vitrified rock from the takeoff. You've got
the metal samples that were stolen at Goddard Space Flight Center.
The metal samples stolen from the Space Flight Center. You've got that whole paper trail. It's just, the evidence is overwhelming. I mean, it's and then you've got all the other witnesses in town. I think I want to take a guess. I think it's 6 or 12 other witnesses, some of whom went on the record, that saw this egg-shaped craft. And
heard booms or actually filed statements with investigators.
Yeah, and there are articles that I have references to that we found in the National Archives talking about the other witnesses that, of course, the Air Force neglected to mention.
Okay, well, James, Socorro is one of a number of cases that you're going to highlight in your new film that you're partnered up with Tracy Torme in producing. The working title is 701. Those cases that Project Bluebook didn't want to tell you about. Why don't you give us a quick thumbnail sketch, sort of where, what the project is, the film, and also where you're at in the process.
And before he does that, let's just point out that we're going to have to break in a couple of moments. So I do want to just tell our listeners that when we have a guest scheduled, we try to do it before it's too late, and that is we put up a topic or thread in our forums at forum.theparacast.com, forum.theparacast.com, under a place called the Question Bank. And that way you can ask questions of our guests. And unlike the shows that take phone calls, this way you could sit there, phrase it the way you want. You don't have to worry about how you sound on the air, and you can ask your question. And we try to get most of them in during the show. James Fox joining us with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter, and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKEsoft.com. Lemkesoft.com. LEMKEsoft.com.
It's hurricane and wildfire season again. Why do thousands of people sit in these reoccurring problem areas year after year, betting their lives that the disaster won't get them? Hundreds of you helped eFoods Direct ship 50,000 donated meals to the Oklahoma victims. The problem is we can't help everybody. If every one of us who can will take care of ourselves, we can all pitch in to take care of those who really can't. The new just-in-case pack from eFoods Direct is the big brother to the 7-day emergency pack designed for Oklahoma disaster donations. It contains a 2-month supply for one person, or a 1-month supply for 2 adults, or a 2-week supply for a family of 4. The $320 price is $50 less than retail. Call 800-409-5633 on the web efoodsdirect.com/Alex. Order 2 or more, get 10% off, free shipping applies. Call 800-409-5633 on the web efoodsdirect.com/Alex.
For over 5 years, you've been hearing about the Berkey Guy, so you may know a few things about him. For example, you are well aware of the superior quality and effectiveness of Berkey water filters and accessories. But did you know the Berkeys have had independent lab tests done to prove just how effective they are? It's true, and he can email you the test results. Just visit goberkey.com. You may also know that the Berkey Guy has helped tens of thousands of people get better prepared. Now here's something you may not know. GoBerkey.com has amazing specials and deals all the time on a wide variety of survival and preparedness products. Most ready to ship same day. Visit the Berkey Guy at GoBerkey.com and be sure to click the red Products on Sale Now button. You can always call toll-free 877-886-3653. Again, that's 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com, home of the Berkey Guy.
Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. Amino acids have to be delivered to your body in the shape that nature gave them if they are to be used to create new proteins in your body. Just like a bricklayer cannot use bent or twisted bricks to build a brick wall, so too your body cannot use bent or twisted amino acids to build new proteins. Giving your body an undamaged amino acid food can make a huge difference in your health. One World Whey is an undamaged amino acid food unlike any other. You see, heating bends and twists amino acids, and all whey protein powders we've investigated and most proteins you consume are heated. With our True Cool process, you now have a choice with One World Whey.
My name is Daniel. I'm 34 years old. When I started using One World Whey, I weighed 228 pounds. Now, after 2.5 months, I weigh 182 pounds. This is my ideal weight. I've noticed an increase in stamina, rate of recovery from workouts, and an increase in my potency.
Call 888-988-3325 or visit oneworldwhey.com.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
So we have James Fox joining Gene and Chris in the Paracast. Before we broke, Chris asked a question of James Fox. Would you like to follow up?
Yeah, 701. Tell us about the movie project.
Well, you know, when I finished Out of the Blue, I did a revised version of Out of the Blue. It's kind of a long story. I don't want to bore you with all the details.
I'll tell our listeners, by the way, go back through the Paracast archives, check the various appearances from James Fox, and you'll understand Out of the Blue and all the background, so you don't have to have him repeat it here.
You can watch Out of the Blue on Netflix, too. You know, we finished Out of the Blue in 2003, and we sold it to NBC Universal and Sci-Fi Channel broadcasted, but we were kind of out of steam, and we'd lost, you know, we were out of financing, and my co-producers, we'd all kind of had enough, and we were working on it pretty aggressively for 5 years. But there were aspects of the film that I really felt like I didn't button up, I didn't accomplish. And so when I got a letter from NBC Universal a couple of years after, I think in 2006, saying that they were not going to renew the broadcast option, I didn't think they would anyway, I decided to kind of revisit the film and kind of revamp it because I had bigger aspirations for that movie in terms of distribution. So I picked the film back up and kind of against, it was very difficult to persuade my co-producers to do it, but long story short, we did. And it kept expanding. We did, I think, 35-40% new material, and I broke that story with the governor of Arizona and kind of catapulted us into the limelight for a little bit back in 2006, 2007. And the film kept progressing, and there were some agents that I brought on board that felt that, you know, it was possible to put a film like that in theaters if I kept kind of, you know, modifying the film. And so I kept massaging it for a couple of years. And then eventually it morphed into I Know What I Saw. And my goal with I Know What I Saw was to create a film on the subject of UFOs with some of the most solid evidence, the cases of which a lot of, you know, ufologists are very familiar with. But I wanted to pick good, solid, vetted cases. And I wanted to create something that could be, you know, potentially be released in theaters. Well, I fell short of that goal, and that's a long story, but I certainly tried for many, many years. And once again, I ran out in 2009 of funding. I'd gone through 3 or 4 separate funders. I had to buy out my previous partners. I kept pushing and pushing and pushing until I was, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And a deal came on the table from A&E on the History Channel, and my investors wouldn't let me pass it up. And, you know, and everyone says, well, you know, you did really well, and you got the History Channel, and you made your money back, and blah, blah, blah. But that wasn't my goal. I mean, I didn't spend years and years and years of my life to create another television documentary. I was really had bigger dreams for it. But, like I said, there was a large enough money that I was in debt over that I, in fairness to my investors that put hundreds of thousands of dollars in it, we couldn't pass it up. So we did the deal. And it went out, and I remember being kind of disappointed with the whole thing. And my dad pulled me aside, and he's like, "Oh, son, don't get so hard on yourself. Look at what you did accomplish. You should really pat yourself on the back, blah, blah, blah." So anyway, I kind of brushed that off, and I started getting involved with other projects. So I really wasn't sure where I could go after that. And I'm working on a film that I've just entered into Sundance Film Festival. Cross your fingers. Pretty slick on the BP oil spill. I get a call from Tracy Torme, and he's like, "Hey, he just happened to see one of the rerun shows on History Channel of I Know What I Saw, and he really wanted to talk to me." So long story short, he says, I've had this dream, and I wasn't going to revisit UFOs. I've got so many other interests, but I decided after seeing your film and a couple of other things, read Leslie Kane's book, I guess, to give it one more shot in this field. And his dream was, a theatrical, a UFO documentary feature that could be released in theaters. I said, Tracy, that was my dream as well, and that's what the hopes I had with the newer version of Out of the Blue, and once again with I Know What I Saw, and I failed. And so having a A-list scriptwriter on board, we decided to kind of team up. And, everyone's saying, well, how are you guys going to make this thing different? What hasn't been done? How are you going to put it in theaters? And Tracy said, well, I think our approach should be, and I've started believing this more and more, the more I learned about the whole field, the more I realize how much I don't know. And, Tracy said, I'm starting to think after 25, 30 years of research that, everyone thinks it's this huge, big cover-up, and in some respects there is a cover-up, but in other respects the very reasons for that cover-up might be entirely different. And maybe we should consider this approach, and that is, yes, they're clearly real, but maybe the reason for this big cover-up is the fact that the government just doesn't know.
They don't have a clue. They're more confused than we could ever be.
Exactly. So, there is tangible evidence being withheld from the general public of their existence, but that doesn't mean that they know anything more than anybody else. Yeah, they know they're real. Maybe they don't know where they're coming from. Maybe they don't know what they're doing here. Maybe we have no idea. I mean, we're like in kindergarten, So I really like this approach. And so 701, we're going to be dealing with other cases, not just cases from Project Bluebook, but we kind of like the idea of 701, the ambiguity of it. Like, first of all, from a marketing standpoint, it could get people talking and create a little buzz. But what the number actually represents is what the government didn't know, and that is the 701 cases out of 12,618 from Project Bluebook and Sign and Grudge that they couldn't explain and that they were labeled unidentified. And so it's more symbolic, the number. It doesn't necessarily mean that we'll be dealing just with those cases. We're looking for more recent cases as well. But that's in a nutshell, what we want to do and what we want to accomplish with 701 is to create a documentary feature film for a worldwide theatrical release.
Okay. In addition to Sicario, were there any other important cases that Ray Stanford presented that you're going to talk about in the film?
Yeah, I mean, there's, Ray's sitting on some filmed footage of some stuff, and there are, one of the things that was brought up early on before we even met with Ray was, why don't we talk about the possible physics behind these things? What do we know? And I think it's a great idea. Obviously, we're going to have to speculate to a certain extent, but speculate on informed speculation, I would say.
Yeah, but Ray is sitting on the only information that really even addresses that subject, really.
And Ray, kind of solidified that for me, that whole visit, was that these are aspects, I think, that clearly need to be addressed and mentioned in the film. By doing so, bringing in some people, Ray and people like Ray, to talk about the possible physics behind these objects, which I think is a fascinating angle of it. But that's not going to be obviously clearly the only thing we want to do. We want to talk about, review different hypotheses possibly, and people that could, I know it's going to be once again kind of speculation, but that's something that I never really explored with I Know What I Saw. We talked more about, cases and you saw the evidence and you heard from the witnesses, but then we didn't really go any further on it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, the big thing here, James, is that there are theories other than E.T., but that doesn't mean necessarily conventional explanations. There are other things that might be going on. that need to be explored. Now, let me ask you, too, which will be the obvious question. It's going to be strictly about UFOs. You won't go into possible relationships with other stuff.
What do you mean by that? Sorry, I'm not quite clear on that question.
Okay, well, the fact that UFO sightings are sometimes seen in connection with sightings of strange creatures and other stuff like that. The high strange stuff.
We've talked internally about this because it's a very slippery slope, and we want to reach a very broad audience. And in doing so, we clearly need to take note that, once you delve into some of the more bizarre, not that UFOs in general are bizarre, but when you start to really delve into some of the more truly bizarre aspects of the phenomenon, one risks losing the interest of mainstream, because we're not here to, preach to the choir. We want to appeal to a much broader audience, because we feel that at least addressing some of these, presenting the evidence in a digestible fashion for mainstream. So yes, we want to address, and we don't know right now. I mean, we're kind of exploring how far out we're going to go, and it really depends on what we come up with and review and consider. You know what I mean? Yes, I mean, for instance, we're opening the whole movie right now with A Close Encounter of the Third Kind. I mean, that's
great place to start. That and the X-Files in '92. Well, what are your main keystone cases besides Socorro and Roswell that you're going to be focusing on? I'm assuming you're going to touch on Roswell.
We'll have the answer to that question coming up in a moment. James Fox joining Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
America's #1 source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
Whether it's personal mail, whether it's business email, you want reliable, dependable delivery, freedom from spam, freedom from viruses. Well, Polaris Mail offers professional email hosting services for your personal or small business use. Each account uses 25 gigabytes of storage, an easy-to-use webmail interface, and full mobile sync. Sign up today for a 30-day free trial at polarismail.com, polarismail.com.
So here's what happened. I was placing an order online. The site went down. It just stopped responding. It took hours before it returned, but I'd already placed the order with another company. If your site goes down, you could lose business. And if you have a business or personal site, you'll want to know it's easy to run and it will stay online. At iWeb, your site is hosted on one of the most reliable networks in the world. Check it out. iWeb.com. That's iWeb.com.
Can you pluck a chicken in about 90 seconds? You can with Power Plucker. Plucking by hand is a chore, but the Power Plucker makes it fast and easy. Simply chuck Power Plucker into your power drill and watch those feathers fly off. Save time and money with our complete home processing kits, too. For free USA shipping and 10% discount, go to PowerPlucker.com and enter promo code RADIO. PowerPlucker.com, the only drill-powered poultry plucker.
The Obama administration is targeting people just like you. The IRS, FBI, and NSA are scrambling to collect every bit of information about you. Find out how to protect yourself from government spies at privacyradio.com. But hurry, they do not want you to know about this. It's the story of an American patriot and his struggle against big government. Don't wait. This video could mysteriously go down at any time. Go to privacyradio.com before it's too late. That's privacyradio.com.
There are those curious about Bitcoins and those using and making money with Bitcoins. What are Bitcoins? A Bitcoin is the first decentralized currency that can be easily transferred from person to person over the internet. No bank needed. This means lower fees, and accounts can never be frozen, limited, or closed. You are in control of your money. And the best part? You can start earning and making money with Bitcoins right away. No computer or expertise is required to earn money with Bitcoins, and a growing number of merchants now accept Bitcoins. Plus, they're easily exchanged for dollars, euros, and more. Learn more about the easiest, cheapest, most profitable way to enter the Bitcoin market and get paid every 2 weeks by one of the fastest growing Bitcoin miners in the world at cloudhashing.com. Just like it sounds, cloudhashing.com. That's cloudhashing.com. We mine your business.
Many Americans suffer from poor digestion, which can adversely affect their health.
For you guys who have digestive issues, glutathione is amazingly important for inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, stomach cancer. The glands of the stomach produce lots of glutathione. So glutathione's got multiple roles to play, and one of the best ways to upregulate, to make more glutathione, is to take the building blocks, glycine being one of the most important of the building blocks for making glutathione. Your ultimate enzymes contain something called trimethylglycine. We know it as betaine. We talk about betaine as an important ingredient for acidification, for keeping the pH of the stomach nice and low. But betaine can also help you make glutathione.
Help your body build glutathione. Order Ultimate Enzymes by calling 866-735-2470. That's 866-735-2470, or on the web at brightsideben.com. That's brightsideben.com. Order today.
Hi, this is Nick Pope. You're listening to the Paracast.
Chris, as you know, will always ask a question, almost always, at the end of a segment, giving you a couple of minutes to digest the question and giving our guest a chance to come up with an answer. James Fox, you're joining us today. The film is 701, the working title. Chris asked you a question just ahead of the break. What's your response?
Yeah, what are the key cases that you're going to be kind of adorning the rest of the piece on? Socorro is one. Are you going to be mentioning Roswell, for instance? What other cases are you going to look at?
We've been talking with Don Schmidt about some possible new angles on Roswell. We're on the fence with it right now. I mean, there's a possibility if we come up with some really new, compelling evidence that we would consider touching on Roswell, because it's a part of the whole history, you know. We want to obviously give a broad stroke sort of snapshot, I guess, history of, ufology. I mean, we can go way back, but in terms of the modern day, the wave of 47, the issue, the Capitol building being buzzed in 52, we've been talking a lot about that. Don Schmidt's been pointing us at some possible new evidence with the whole Roswell case, because if we have some new, interesting, compelling stuff, then we would. We're exploring all of this stuff. There's some cases like the Rua Zimbabwe case in Africa that I've been pushing hard for, and I think it's really compelling with all the school children.
Right, the one that John Mack went fairly early on and investigated.
I've been kind of pushing hard for that one, just because I don't know, it's something very compelling about all the testimony of those articulate 8 to 12-year-old school children, and Close Encounter of the Third Kind once again, and that's dealing with some pretty radical stuff like telepathy and things like that.
Right.
But I find that case very compelling. I don't think there's hardly anything ever done on that case.
Not really well done. I mean, there have been some segments. I think Sightings covered it, UFO Files. There have been a few, but how about Virginia?
Yeah, the Virginia case, I initially, a couple years ago, I was very skeptical of that case, because I remember thinking, come on, man, little creatures in the town, UFO crap. I mean, really, 1996. I mean, this is not that long ago. It's like the Roswell of Brazil. And I was extremely skeptical, and I got invited to give a little presentation completely unrelated to Virginia in Brazil. And a friend of mine was like, oh, you're going to go to Brazil, you've got to look into the Virginia case. And I kind of looked. I'd heard about it, but I just said, oh, come on, man. Aliens walking through the town. I mean, please. And I went there twice. And after the second time I went, I am pretty well convinced that happened. I met with some of the primary witnesses, the first-hand eyewitnesses that saw the creatures. They never said, E.T. They thought it was more a manifestation of the devil. Right, These women were absolutely terrified. Yeah. It has plagued them to death. They were offered money by the Air Force to recant their statements and say that they lied. They didn't do that. It's ruined their lives, basically. They can't get jobs locally because, I met with these people. I met with members of
So are you going to cover that in 701?
I'm so sorry?
You're going to cover that in 701?
Well, I'm pushing for it.
Okay, how about Colares? Have you done anything about the 79 through 81 cases at the mouth of the Amazon?
I looked into that where the people got zapped.
Yeah.
I definitely looked into that while I was there. That's a very interesting case as well, and it's, recent enough. I think it was at 79 or something?
Yeah, 7980. Bob Pratt, of course, the longtime investigator of all people, the National Enquirer, He wrote a book about it. Of course, Jacques Vallée covered it in his book Confrontations. There's a lot of very compelling evidence, including autopsy reports on people that were killed by UFOs.
Yeah, it's a crazy story, and I haven't looked in. I remember reading all about it when I was there, and actually talking, because I was investigating Virginia, and then some researchers there were like, well, you got to know about, I think, Operation Plateau or something like that, I think they called it.
Yeah, I forget the actual Brazilian Air Force designation, but the films that the Air Force, by the way, took have yet to be declassified, although they claim they've declassified all the evidence that they have in their files. They've given over to civilian investigators, but the film footage that we know was taken of some huge mothership craft that are discharging the chupas, the small refrigerator-sized craft that went through the jungle and zapped people at night, I think 14, if I remember correctly. That footage has never been revealed to the public, and the full story of the Brazilian Air Force investigation has never been revealed.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me. I mean, but I talked to a guy who was my translator, actually, at my presentation, whose father was a general in the Brazilian Air Force, and his father was got cancer, and I guess the son had constantly been asking his father about the reality of UFOs, and then when his father realized he had cancer, he brought his son in, and I met his son and spent time with his son a number of days, and he was shown photographic evidence, conclusive photographic evidence of cases throughout Brazil for decades that he was, I think he was given 5 minutes with the folder, and he's he talked a little bit about that, and that wouldn't surprise me if some of that evidence was that case in '79. But the kid said it was irrefutable photographic evidence.
Wow, that'd be great stuff to see on the big screen, bro.
You hear these stories. I mean, I could give you. People have been criticizing me for putting out a $100,000 reward for evidence. I mean, to be honest with you, if I had $1 million, I would put it in the. I would somehow create a prize in the most transparent way possible, where any of this evidence would see the light of day. I mean, granted, I know over all the interviews I've been, I know there's a lot of hokey stuff out there. Believe me, I'm very aware of that. But
hey, Ray Stanford should win that prize.
Well, going back to some of the people like Gordon Cooper that I interviewed in the 90s, talking about the filmed footage of a landed saucer at Edwards Air Force Base. I mean, it sounds kind of really out there, but there are cases at Holloman Air Force Base and Edwards Air Force Base, Vandenberg Air Force Base, where I've met with military officers that told us about filmed evidence of a landed UFO. I mean, that would be pretty damn remarkable, obviously, and I'm quite convinced that stuff exists. Ray's got some amazing film footage. I didn't get it. Unfortunately, I saw each scanned frame, but I didn't get to see the film played. I'm really trying to encourage Ray to have that stuff transferred, because I think that it's time.
Yeah, you and me both.
But in terms of the awe factor of a landed craft at Holloman filmed officially, or Edwards, I'm quite convinced that stuff does exist. Maybe with the right dollar amount, it would resurface. I don't know. I mean, there's other countries, for instance, I know in Brazil, you were just talking about stuff. Maybe one of these retired officers could sneak some of this stuff out for the right price. I don't know.
I have a question to ask you, James, before we go on, and that is, should we think that all this supposedly secret information is being held by the government, or are they possibly funneling it off to private industry because that gives them plausible deniability? Well, we don't know anything about it. We're telling you the truth because some private company out there not accountable to anyone has it.
Well, I did a video a couple of years ago in San Diego for a woman named Jan Seacrest. It was just a video. It was a little, I do editing and film stuff on the side, and I was doing the lifespan of her husband, who's in his 80s. Really fun stuff. And very well-to-do couple lived in the hills in San Diego. And she said, "Oh, James, what else? What are your other interests?" And I, of course, reluctantly brought up UFOs and expecting her to kind of laugh. And she said, "Well, gosh, there's something I'd like to tell you. When I was in college, the guy who was across from our dorm was General Nathan Twining's son. And back in, I think it was either the 50s, late 50s, he one night was having drinks with her and her girlfriend in their dorm room. And he told her, and this is her mouth to my ears, she said, he he had a couple drinks in him one night, and he told us that his father had shown him in an underground room in the Pentagon all this incredible UFO evidence and photographic evidence and filmed evidence. And there was a whole vault underneath the Pentagon. She's like, I've been sitting on that story since he told me that back in the late 50s, I think it was. The late 50s or early 60s. And I'm in touch with her to this day. Of course, I'm trying to track down Nathan Twining's son. I've been trying. She's been actually trying to help me do that as well. But, you hear these little tidbits and you think, boy, it makes sense. And then you hear, Gordon Cooper, Mercury astronaut Gordon Cooper, tell me, both on and off camera, that he personally held some of this evidence in his hands of a landed saucer, filmed evidence, and it was, couriered off to Washington, never to see the light of day. They've got to be keeping this stuff somewhere.
Could have
right?
a nickel for all the gun camera footage that they must have, just that alone.
I know. Believe me, I know. And I know that stuff exists. I'm absolutely convinced. But what is it going to take to get it out? I don't know, We currently have a couple of leads on a few things that I'm following. You have to follow up every possible lead on this stuff, and
let me know
if you need the vast majority of them, I'm sure, is going to lead to nowhere. But I continue to try because I know it's out there.
Here's some of what's out there. What's out there is doing this break very briefly with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Are you tired of searching for great talk radio?
Something more important.
Search no more. We are the GCN Radio Network.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. If you'd like to listen to GCN programs on the go, I have great news. GCN has created a Droid and iPhone application, and it's free. Just as easy as going to GCNlive.com, click on the banner, and download. Before you know it, you'll be listening to your favorite hard-hitting GCN shows, live or on demand, right on your Droid or iPhone, 24/7 and on the go. So download the Droid and iPhone app free by clicking on the banner at GCNlive.com. Thanks again for listening to GCNlive.com. Again, that's GCNlive.com. We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Ted Anderson, I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Attention citizens of Northern Arizona. Are you prepared? If not, now's your chance to get prepared at the Arizona Survivalist Prepper Expo. August 24th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Tim's Toyota Center in Prescott Valley. Visit with Arizona-based and national suppliers of such items as freeze-dried foods, solar ovens, solar equipment, tactical gear, camping gear, water filtration supplies, and much more. Do you need a bug-out bag? Do you need to stock up on freeze-dried food? Are you curious what a solar oven is? Take a tour of the Ultimate Bunker, a portable above or below ground survival shelter. Visit with Doomsday Prepper stars from around Arizona, such as Tim Ralston of Gear Up and Brian Moffat of Extreme Defense USA. Informative speakers will be providing valuable insight every hour on such topics as long-term food storage and emergency first aid skills. Bring your family, bring your friends, bring your neighbors. We won't rest until every citizen in Arizona is prepared. Visit our website, ArizonaSurvivalistshows.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
With Gene and Chris on the Paracast, we have James Fox joining us. The film is called 701. Before you continue with our discussion of the previous segment, is that the final title or just a working title till something better comes along?
Well, as of right now, it's the title. But if something better comes along, we'd certainly consider it.
Well, I was going to say before we went to break, James, that you have a lot of research that you need to have done to chase down, some of these particular cases and little factoids that would help. Let me know. I will be more than willing to put together a team of crack research helpers that will go ahead and assist you in whatever, area that you need some help with. So don't hesitate to ask. We've got some really bright people that write in questions at forum.theparacast.com, including this one, which was asked 3 times in the same post. Did you ever hit on Erin Ryder? If so, did she appear interested? And is she as hot in person as she is on screen?
Nope, never hit on her.
She looked like a toughie when I met her, man, in the lobby. Oh, man, she seemed all sweet and everything, but boy, she's a handful.
But no, never hit on her.
Well, I just, I forgot to ask that one earlier. So, Tracy is what? Where are you in the process? Do you have any sort of idea of when you're going to go into post? I know you've done several dozen interviews by now. Do you have a sense of when you're going to be going into post and kind of calling it, the stop, clack that clacker, and then boom, go into post?
Well, what we're doing right now is we're doing on-camera interviews with researchers and with witnesses, and we've got a second round coming up in October, and there are obviously going to be other witnesses that we're reaching out to, some of which are more high profile than others, and so the vast majority of those interviews should be complete in the next, not all of them, but the vast majority, I'd say, should be completed by November. And then Tracy is going to carefully review a lot of that. We're going to whittle it down to some of the best cases and evidence that we've got, and he's going to write a script, at which point, we'll incorporate other cases into the overall narrative.
Right.
And that will start happening in November, December of this year. And post-production, probably, one could start theoretically doing stuff as early as 5 months, but, we've got a lot of recreations to do. Like, we want to do cinematic recreations with...
Oh, cool.
With the Socorro case, but you got
hey, that's big dollar stuff, man. I hope you got your funding together.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where the script will come in, and a lot of the the interviews with the researchers and the witnesses and stuff. That's what we're trying to chisel away at now, and then also get our hands on some of the archived interviews.
Right.
So we're all reviewing this stuff. We're basically trying to see what we come up with. We have a fairly clear idea of some of the cases that we're covering, but we're researching new cases too. So,
and plus the addition of Ray Stanford into the equation. You got how many hours? 6 hours of interview footage with him, which I am so jealous, man.
Yeah, we interviewed him for, 5 or 6. I would say probably 5 hours.
5 hours. Okay, I'm jealous, and you owe me one. I brought a camera with me. When I went out to the citizens' hearing, I had a camera with 6 hours of footage and didn't get 1 second. So, my hat's off, bro.
He gave such a great animated interview. He was really, really good. He got very excited. He referenced things, dates, witnesses. He retold the story in a way that was just he was so animated that you really could relive his experience. Yeah. And to have the opportunity to interview someone who is at the landing site within days of one of the most significant, certainly cases that was made public, was just such a golden opportunity. I was really, really, really happy and thank you, Chris, for making that happen. I really do appreciate it.
Well, you told me in a text that your reality view had been irrevocably changed, or
yes.
I'll never look at reality the same again.
Yes, it's a reminder. It's a constant reminder of changing the filter and looking at things slightly differently.
Right. Well, Ray has got a special pair of glasses on, and I'm really happy that you were able to to get in, kind of get into his good graces. He's very difficult, as you know, to be with, and you really have to be on your best game, really, to be around him, because he is so, like you said, so kind of head and shoulders above us in terms of his observational acuity, that it's kind of hard for him to sort of educate you as he shows you what's going on. And the fact that you were able to hang with him for 8 days, man, my hat's off to you.
Well, thank you. I said that to him at one point, I think on day 5. I said, boy, it must be really frustrating for you, someone who's paid such close attention to detail and someone who's done so much research and sees so much that others don't. It must be frustrating for you to go through life. He said it's incredibly frustrating. Could you imagine?
I couldn't. I mean, if it was me, I would be a hell of a lot more cantankerous than he is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I literally said that. I said, it must be really frustrating for you, Ray. He's like, yeah, it is. And especially when you can't get other researchers to even look at what you're doing, to sit down and take the time and do it. And it does take a little time.
Well, and the frustration of having the naysayers out there, putting up very, insulting kind of, hits on your personality and all this disinformation and misinformation that's on the web about Ray. It must be incredibly difficult to be in that position. But, I must say, James, I really admire that you and Tracy have teamed together. I've told several people that I have been called out on many interviews to do for the media over 20 years. I'm up around 50, I think 55 or something. And I've never been asked to come out with any sort of explanation of what it's about, whether I'm going to get paid, all those things that you normally ask when a Hollywood production calls you up. When I got the call from Tracy that you and Tracy were going to put together this project, and he said, can I fly you out? I said, I did not ask a single question except for, when do you want me? And I will never, ever say that again about any other production. I want to be public about this. You two are the perfect partnership to cover this subject, and I mean that. That is I don't say that, lightly. I admire your work. I admire Tracy's work, and both of your work together. I'm so excited for you, and anything I can do, and anything that this big Paracast listening forum can do for you, let us know.
I really appreciate that, and I feel blessed. I literally I learn a lot from Tracy, and I have so much to learn. One of the things I keep realizing, the more I look into it, is just how much I don't know.
Indeed, there's a lot to know. For example, if you want to know how to get in touch with us, here's how you do it. Just send your email to news@theparacast.com. Once again, that's news@theparacast.com. Or send us a tweet. On Twitter, we are known as The Paracast. Once again, we're The Paracast on Twitter. And by the way, you can also check out our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com, forum.theparacast.com. Membership in our forums is free. I know that. We're going to learn more of what he knows and doesn't know. More fascinating conversation with James Fox. With Gene and Chris, you're in
The Paracast.
Is there a secret UFO agenda? Do strange creatures from the darkest corners of the mind roam the Earth? Is there evidence for mind control, time travel, or devious government conspiracies? Find out the inside scoop on the latest conspiracies, paranormal activity, and Fortean phenomena when you subscribe to Tim Beckley's Conspiracy Journal. It's jam-packed with stories, special book and DVD promotions, and the best news, it's absolutely free, sent right to your mailbox. Plus, a bonus free email newsletter sent out every Friday. Simply send an email with your name and address to Mr. UFO at webtv.net. That's Mr. UFO at webtv.net. Find out what they don't want you to know.
Have you ever felt like the United States government knows way too much about your financial affairs? I continue to hear stories about property seizures, frozen bank accounts, confiscation of stocks and bonds. It makes me wonder if the U.S. citizen will ever again have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Unfortunately, with the Drug and Money Laundering Act, the IRS Revenue Ruling 6045 of 1984, and the Trading with the Enemy Act and Franklin D. Roosevelt's Executive Order of 1933, some precious metal holdings are subject to government intervention. For this reason, Midas Resources has prepared a report explaining the boundaries of trading precious metals privately. Whether if you have any intention of trading with Midas Resources or not, I have instructed my representatives to give this report out free. Call for your free copy at 1-800-686-2237. When investing, always proceed with caution. Again, call 1-800-686-2237. Exercise your legal right to trade metals privately. 1-800-686-2237.
For over 5 years, you've been hearing about the Berkey Guy, so you may know a few things about him. For example, you are well aware of the superior quality and effectiveness of Berkey water filters and accessories. But did you know the Berkeys have had independent lab tests done to prove just how effective they are? It's true, and he can email you the test results. Just visit goberkey.com. You may also know that the Berkey Guy has helped tens of thousands of people get better prepared. Now here's something you may not know. GoBerkey.com has amazing specials and deals all the time on a wide variety of survival and preparedness products. Most ready to ship same day. Visit the Berkey Guy at GoBerkey.com and be sure to click the red Products on Sale Now button. You can always call toll-free 877-886-3653. Again, that's 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com, home of the Berkey Guy.
You know about RVs, you've heard about bunkers, but surviving is not recreation, and man wasn't made to live underground. Introducing Survivalist Camps, the ultimate fully functional off-the-grid survival bug-out house that's mobile, well-equipped, and custom-built to outlast any other RV or trailer. Go to survivalistcamps.com to learn more. That's survivalistcamps.com, providing your basic needs to survive. Survivalistcamps.com.
Wouldn't it be nice to have one product that replaces more than 10, saving you space, time, and money? HempUSA.org has a complete full-spectrum vitamin mineral detox formulation called Micro Plant Powder Gold. Micro Plant Powder Gold contains 101 vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and iodine. Has a 100-year shelf life and is a perfect addition to any storage shelter. Make Micro Plant Powder Gold your choice. Call 888-910-4367 or visit HempUSA.org today.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
With Gene and Chris, we're back with James Fox. The movie he's working on with Tracy Torme and others is called 701. And just a quick question about that. Obviously, you're basing that on the Project Bluebook results. But in general, there are probably 700,001 unexplained UFO cases, don't you think?
Yeah, well, you know, it's more what the number represents. You know, it was Dr. Jalen Hynek talked about the fact that the cases that, you know, the less ambiguous, the more difficult to explain, that the Air Force would, you know, do handsprings to keep the media away from those. So as the 12,618 cases investigated over, 48 to 69, 701 remained unexplained. And so it's what it symbolizes to me, because a lot of people say, oh, well, all, you know, UFOs, extraterrestrial spacecraft. The question is, are any of them, or any, you know what I mean? Is anything, when I say extraterrestrial, I mean not, you know, this on this Earth. So while we will be covering other cases that were after the termination of Bluebook in 69, we liked what it represented, the number, what it represented. And the ambiguity for marketing purposes is kind of fun, too.
Okay, now, speaking of cases, obviously we talk a lot about the Roswell case. Everywhere it's Roswell. And now this week, of course, we're all talking about Area 51 because supposedly the CIA revealed information about Area 51. But what about some of those offshoot cases like Aztec?
Now, I guess officially the Air Force never recognized it as existing. What do you think?
I have limited knowledge of the Aztec crash. You're talking about, was it 1952, I think, or when did that happen?
That was in March of
48.
March of 1948.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Up until fairly recently, I was actually at the 2013 UFO Congress, and I was approached by someone who's had been investigating the case for quite some time, and said they had a lot of really compelling evidence, as well as on-camera statements from some of the original witnesses. So it's kind of been on my radar in the last few months, but I haven't personally investigated any further than that. But I mean, certainly we're exploring any good, solid, credible cases.
What do you think about what the government knows? And of course, Goggs Mackay, one of our forum regulars and an occasional guest on our show, was talking about in his question a control group. And if we go back to the 50s, Major Donald Kehoe was talking about the Silence Group. And he said this is the agency or organization within the government that manages the UFO secrecy. Do you believe there is such a thing?
I kind of do, only because of enough witness testimony. I call it more of a preponderance of evidence, in the sense that I've talked to enough people who have either had at one point in their possession very tangible evidence, not, as the skeptics would say, anecdotal, that has mysteriously disappeared or been sought after by some unknown government agency. And these are very credible witnesses that I've talked to over the years. And then there's on-camera video testimony dating back to early 1950 from the McMinnville, Oregon case, Paul and his wife, the Trents. And they talked about a gentleman from an unknown agency, whether it was the Air Force or someone else, that ransacked their house back in 1950. I've heard similar cases back in 1966. With the Rex Heflin case, I have a dear family friend whose uncle took a photograph of a UFO back in the 70s, and it was published in a local paper, and then he was harassed by some unknown government agency. So I've seen this go on for quite some time. I mean, even the Rendlesham Forest case, 1980, the Deputy Base Commander, Charles Halt, told me that some unknown agency showed up in England and sanitized a lot of the evidence. So this is happening, time and time again. I could give countless examples.
And we'd have to do another show if you did do countless examples.
Yeah, no, to answer your question, I do believe there is some... first of all, it's a pile of doggy doo-doo. They say they're not researching this anymore. Since the termination of Bluebook, it's absolute nonsense. We know that for sure. I don't know which agency, what acronym is responsible.
I think I suggested in another segment that maybe it's done in private industry. And of course, another question that follows this control group, silence group, is, well, let's follow the lyrics from that song Men in Black from the movie. Here come the Men in Black. Then you have the chorus, which I won't repeat, the Galaxy Defenders. But the Men in Black that we always talk about are defending the secret. So did you explore any possible cases of Men in Black?
No. I mean, gosh, Men in Black. I mean, you can call the 1997 Phoenix Lights case where you had a Vietnam vet on the roof of his house with his video camera on tripod trying to get a glimpse of the Hale-Bopp comet. And he was monitoring radio chatter from the truckers coming up on I-10. Apparently he heard them talking about this massive craft that was coming towards him, and he allegedly got great footage of this thing as it flew directly over his house. And he contacted Frances Barwood. They talked. She was councilwoman at the time, with Governor Fife Symington, who, he said, hey, would you be interested in seeing this footage? She'd been having lots of inquiries and people asking questions. So, of course, she said, yes, we'd love to have it. They made arrangements for him to drop it off at her office, and I think it was a day or two later, two men show up at his house in suits saying they're from Frances Barwood's office, and apparently he was quite relieved that's all they wanted was the video footage. And, a couple weeks went by, he never heard from her. He gave her a call. He said, well, what did you think of the footage? She said, well, I never got it. And, so I verified all this stuff, but, they were two men in dark suits. I mean, you want to call them Men in Black? I guess. I don't know who they are.
That's the classic Men in Black case.
Well, I was
pretending to be someone
in 97, 98. So, I heard all the testimony regarding this. And even spoke to one of the investigators who talked to the neighbors in this guy's community, who claimed that, a government vehicle or a government-looking vehicle pulled up. And it was hot. I think it was like in July or something. It was really hot in Phoenix. And he said they thought it was kind of odd these guys were wearing suits, dark suits. So, I don't know.
As I sit here, man, it's 104 in the shade here in the Phoenix area. So I fully know.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I don't know where you are right now, but I am feeling jealous because it has to be a lot cooler than that.
I'm in Northern California. We're right on the ocean. We got the ocean breeze blowing through. It's a cool 65 degrees.
Okay, so you need the guest room prepared for myself, my wife, and our little Bichon, teddy bear. Okay.
I'll have the couch ready.
You see, this is a big filmmaker, and what does he have? He has a couch. So, a very quick question before we go to our next segment, and that is, over the course of your UFO-related documentary filmmaking, anyone come to you who might be a government agent or somebody trying to play the disinformation game with you? Not much time for an answer.
No. The answer is simply no. The only thing I've ever had was right after I did the National Press Club event in 2007. I got an email that said, "Stop doing what you're doing or I'll put you to Z." And the Z's got progressively smaller. And that was it.
Maybe he just felt that you were boring him to death, you know?
Well, maybe I was putting him to sleep. I don't know. Maybe the evidence wasn't as compelling as I thought it was for him.
That's how you go, but when the film comes out, then we'll have to see for everyone. James Fox is his name, and movie making is his game. That's a bad rhyme. The film is called 701. With Gene and Chris, you're in
The Paracast.
The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter, and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKEsoft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKEsoft.com.
Hi there. My name is Frank Bates. What I'm about to tell you in the next 60 seconds could get me in a lot of trouble. I just created a free video presentation at 123coverup.com that exposes the electricity monopolies and government agencies for what they really are. Incompetent, lying crooks that are counting on your ignorance and fear to keep your power bills criminally high. Some have called this a conspiracy. Others have called it a cover-up, and you will be shocked to find out how deep the conspiracy goes. My video at 123coverup.com exposes the truth and shows you the secret of how I beat them and how you can beat them too. Watch the controversial video that thousands of other smart patriots have already seen in the last 3 months. Go to 123coverup.com and discover one weird trick to slash your power bill and protect your home. Go watch my video now at 123coverup.com before they force me to shut it down. Again, that's 123coverup.com.
What's safer and cheaper than prescription drugs?
Glad you asked. The answer is Renovation Teas. Herbal remedies are much safer and much cheaper than prescription drugs. Taste great, and most importantly, herbal teas are effective and non-addictive. Renovation Tea is especially unique, and here's why. We spent years researching herbs and their beneficial properties. Renovation Teas uses only 100% organic, fair trade herbs. Our teas are blended towards specific ailments and health conditions, such as diabetes, blood pressure, anxiety, libido, detox, and much more. All Renovation Teas are formulated and hand-filled in Arkansas. Take care of yourself naturally, the way Mother Nature intended. Order renovation teas at renovationtea.com or call 870-784-3121. That's 870-784-3121. Renovation Teas. Renovate your health one bag at a time.
How's your pH today? Are you acidic? How alkaline is your blood and body? What is the pH of the water you drink? We are AlkaVision, and we have the answers. Drinking pure, high-alkaline water is one of the most important factors in maintaining vibrant health and high energy, because bacteria and viruses cannot survive in an alkaline, high pH environment. If your drinking water isn't at a pH level of 8 or higher, boost it with AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops. Our unique formula will alkalize your water, ridding your body of harmful toxins and acid, and help regain energy and health. Simply add 10 drops of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops to help your body rid itself of acidic waste, increase oxygen, and raise the pH of your body to optimal levels. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops for only $29.95 at alkavision.com, spelled A-L-K-A vision.com, or call 800-518-7615, 800-518-7615. Alkalize your body, supercharge your health at alkavision.com.
Hello, this is Rosemary Ellen Guiley, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
With Gene and with Chris, we have James Fox talking about this new project called 701. These, of course, represent the sightings left unexplained by the Air Force after all was said and done.
You know what that reminds me of? After all is said and done, there's a lot more said than done.
Okay.
Boy, ain't that the truth.
Isn't that the truth? Kind of reminds you of politics a little bit, doesn't it?
I don't even want to get into politics because then we start.
Yeah, right. I'm right there with you.
No, that gets to be kind of crazy. We get into politics,
yeah, right.
And we got to argue about that. But right now, I think that today, no matter what the subject, you can't learn what's going on by just watching cable news because that's a reality show. They make it up depending on their political persuasion.
Oh, my gosh. I remember, it's so funny, I grew up with that television because my dad always said it would make my eyeballs square. And we lived kind of out in the sticks, and we didn't even have cable. I mean, you could get like those old bunny ears and kind of rotate them in the right direction, maybe pick up a couple of stations. But I've obviously clearly been over to a friend's house. They've had TV and stuff. But I remember about like 10 or 12 years ago, I popped on the news at a hotel room in Las Vegas, and there was just somebody ranting and raving and this tirade about what to think. And I just thought, what is this? This isn't news. This is some idiot's opinion. And just give me the facts and let me make up my own mind. Thank you very much. But that's unfortunately what it's kind of whittled down to on both sides of the fence.
You can't believe anyone, anybody, and you wonder here, when it comes to UFOs, exactly whether it's deliberate or just part of the scheme. It doesn't matter what the subject is. They'll find a way to mess it up or spin it in a certain way.
I can't tell you how many times I've been on television with the newscaster person, and they have this sort of incredulous look on their face, and then they have to have the little hokey little green saucer fly through the screen, It's just like, come on, man. And then if you've looked into a particular case, and there are a lot of cases that I haven't looked into, but a few cases that I've looked into quite thoroughly, well, certainly fairly thoroughly. I don't consider myself a UFO researcher as much as I do it as someone who, more reporter. I like to sift through things and present the evidence in a clear and unbiased kind of fashion. But it's so easy to shoot down the arguments used in mainstream media against their existence. But for the person that doesn't know, they could easily buy that argument. I could see that. And it's very frustrating when you hear, someone like the Michael Shermers talking about anecdotal evidence and stuff when you've been in the archives and you've seen diagrams of all this, some of these very unambiguous cases that, you can't discount. And it's frustrating to see that. Do you know what I mean? But for the mainstream, they give explanations. Oh, isn't that just a bunch of geese? Or oh, I know they explained that one. That was military flares. It's like, that was the White House. It's like, oh, God.
We have been seeing some progress. you don't see the Twilight Zone theme being played or Little Green Men jokes as much as you used to. So, some of these sighting reports and cases are being taken more seriously, but there's a long way to go, and I'm sure you'll agree.
Absolutely. One of the things that I've talked to Tracy about, we butted heads a little bit, but as Tracy says, this is all part of the process. And, I'll have certain suggestions, but in terms of marketing, I've always envisioned 701 in some respects as being the real-life close encounters. What I mean by that is, like, we're not talking about, obviously there's a lot of, the whole ending bit and the big chandelier that comes down and the creature's getting out, but I'm not talking about that, but a lot of, down to Dreyfus's face being burned by the object and the shapes and the flight characteristics and all those things,
Right, the 13 astronauts, Project Serpo, boarding the craft.
Coming right out of Project Bluebook files, I kind of like the idea from a marketing standpoint. If, what is it exactly that you're doing, your elevator pitch, think of it as the real-life close encounters. And that's kind of, in a sense, what we're trying to accomplish. We understand that there's a need for, entertainment, but if we could do it with laser-like accuracy and really beautiful, sweeping cinematic recreations and real evidence and real witnesses whenever possible, then, I think we'd have a winner on our hands.
We probably have some more questions left from the audience, Chris.
Here's one. Let's kind of boil it down and find out what James Fox really thinks. This comes from Jeff Crowell. He's one of our administrators at forum.theparacast.com. And he says, what is your current hypothesis on the origins of the UFO phenomenon? Off-world, ET, ultra-dimensional, ultra-terrestrial? What's your, where do you come down?
I honestly, it seems like such a neat little label just to say extraterrestrial. But the more I learn, the more I realize that I just don't think that one could do that. And I'm kind of possibly all of the above theory at this point. But I got to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are. But here's one from another one of our administrators, Goggs Mackay. What are your thoughts on any quote-unquote control group, i.e. an unacknowledged, all-powerful official body that keeps the UFO enigma off the front page and forever associated with silly stuff? Do you think there is a control group?
Well, I think that you look into the Robertson panel, and there was a policy shift after the pretty big policy shift right around that time in the early 50s, where you suddenly are introduced to this whole ridicule factor that, let's not deny it, let's just adopt this policy of ridicule. And it was a very effective campaign. You just laugh at people who claim to have seen them. It discourages people to come forward, and when they do, they get laughed at. Because you think about it, I mean, what's really funny about an airline pilot or a radar operator talking about these things? Just because we can't explain it, is it really that funny? I don't think it's that funny. To me, it's like we should look into it, But that shift seemed to have happened right around the Robertson panel time in 52, 53.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's always been obvious to me that somebody's keeping, close tabs on what's going on, at least in the civilian side of ufology. Here's another question from Jeff Crowell, again, one of our administrators.
I got to say one more thing. This is really odd. But people often say, what is it about these men in dark suits or men in black or whatever like that? Well, I don't know enough about the so-called men in black, but I do know on a number of cases, dating back as early as 1950, I have archived, I just give one example, I can give multiple examples. I have archived interviews of the Trents, Paul Trent and his wife. I don't remember what his wife's name was, unfortunately, talking clearly about a representative from some unknown agency, could have been the Air Force, she wasn't sure, that ransacked her house and turned her place upside down, looking for either the negatives or further photographic evidence of what they documented in
which was
Oregon,
the famous McMinnville series of photographs from, I think, 1953, if I remember correctly.
I think it's 1950.
50, yeah. Okay, the McMinnville, Oregon photographs.
Yeah, and, the Trents, Paul Trent, I think, took the photographs. But, I've got filmed footage of her giving an interview in the 80s talking about this man that showed up from, I think she said it was the Air Force. I have to look at ransacking her place, basically. And then I've got evidence to suggest similar things happened with the 1966 Rex Heflin photographs. Men from government agencies claiming to be, either from, what was that? Not the NSA, some other three-letter organization. But I researched a case back in the 90s when we had the Phoenix Lights case, and there was a gentleman who was a Vietnam vet who was standing on his roof trying to get a closer look at the Hale-Bopp comet, and he had filmed this object. He was scanning the radio chit-chatter from the truckers, and he heard these truckers talking about this craft, and he's like, wow, it's coming right towards me, and lo and behold, the craft flew right overhead.
We have James Fox joining us for one more segment. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast. America's #1 source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
If you want to get your website online and you need reliable service, first-class service at the lowest possible price, there's only one place to go. Well, DreamHost has a special promotion with our show where they'll offer you unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click web apps such as WordPress, 24/7 support. You can save over $55. You want to know how? Go to dreamhost.com/radio, dreamhost.com/radio. Whether it's personal mail, whether it's business email, you want reliable, dependable delivery, freedom from spam, freedom from viruses. Well, Polaris Mail offers professional email hosting services for your personal or small business use. Each account uses 25 gigabytes of storage, an easy-to-use webmail interface, and full mobile sync. Sign up today for a 30-day free trial at polarismail.com, polarismail.com.
Do you owe the IRS money that you can't pay? Are tax liens and levies ruining your life? Are you tired of being afraid just to go to the mailbox? If this describes you, then Dan Pilla can help.
Hi, I'm Dan Pilla, and I've been solving tax problems for more than 30 years. In fact, I wrote the book that made it possible to negotiate settlements with the IRS, and I've helped thousands of people do exactly that. Call now at 800-346-6829 to learn how I can help you. You know your IRS debt will not go away by itself, but you don't have to live in fear anymore. New changes to IRS policies will help more people than ever before eliminate their debts once and for all. There's no need for you to suffer another day with IRS debt. Call 800-346-6829. I can help you eliminate wage and bank levies, release tax liens, and negotiate a settlement with the IRS that will put your tax nightmare behind you forever. Call 800-34-NO-TAX or go to my website, taxhelponline.com. That's taxhelponline.com.
It's hurricane and wildfire season again. Why do thousands of people sit in these reoccurring problem areas year after year, betting their lives that the disaster won't get them? Hundreds of you helped eFoods Direct ship 50,000 donated meals to the Oklahoma victims. The problem is we can't help everybody. If every one of us who can will take care of ourselves, we can all pitch in to take care of those who really can't. The new just-in-case pack from eFoods Direct is the big brother to the 7-day emergency pack designed for Oklahoma disaster donations. It contains a 2-month supply for one person, or a 1-month supply for 2 adults, or a 2-week supply for a family of 4. The $320 price is $50 less than retail. Call 800-409-5633 on the web efoodsdirect.com/Alex. Order 2 or more, get 10% off, free shipping applies. Call 800-409-5633 on the web efoodsdirect.com/Alex.
Hi, my name is DeRay, suffering from migraines, having Botox injections in my head and neck to alleviate pain, costing $1,500 out of my pocket. I discovered Dr. Ortman and Gentle Touch chiropractic adjustment called Nuka. I'm migraine-free since my first adjustment. Thanks for giving me my life back, Dr. Ortman. I wish they prescribed you instead of Botox.
Thanks, DeRay. Putting the bones back in place is only half of the solution. We design a nutritional supplement program the body can handle, actually absorb, providing nutrients, targeting the problem area. Between Nuka and nutrition, we will have you on the road to a faster and more permanent recovery. Look us up on the web at drwortman.com or call 952-303-9124. Let us help you feel better faster. Wellspring Spinal Care at 952-303-9124. Again, that's 952-303-9124 or on the web at drortman.com.
This is Kurt Sutherland, the author of UFO Mysteries, and you're listening to the Paracast.
Our last segment of our visit, this time with James Fox. The film is 701. You were telling us about a sighting. Would you continue, please, James?
Yeah, so I mean, the point I was basically making is that there are a number of cases that I personally either looked into or seen, testimony to suggest that there's some unknown government agency that has pretty good listening or monitoring capabilities, looking for evidence. And I could go on, until we've gobbled up all of our time, but I'll finish this last story. And that was, this guy basically filmed the object or whatever it was that flew right over his roof from a camera with a tripod because he was trying to get filmed footage of the Hale-Bopp comet. Well, he called Francis Barwood, who was council member at the time, and said, "Hey, I've got this footage. Would you be interested?" He said, "Well, absolutely, we'd be interested." They made arrangements for him to drop the footage off at her office, I think the next day or a couple days later. I think it was that day or the very next day, two men in suits showed up at his house, knocked on the door, quite intimidating, saying they were from Francis Barwood's office to pick up the footage. He thought, well, I was going to drop it off, but we're here to pick it up. I guess it saves me the trip. And he said I was quite relieved that that's all they wanted. But he said it was kind of odd. They were in suits. It was a very hot day. And, of course, the footage never made it to Francis Barwood's office. And I talked to Francis at length about it, and I also spoke at the time with a guy who personally investigated the case, and the neighbors had actually seen a vehicle pull up and two men, getting out and going to the guy's door. So there's a number of these cases that have happened. So it seems like the better the evidence, the more likely it is that someone's going to show up and try to get their hands on it.
And if they're hot chicks, be extra careful.
But, everyone says, oh, how is that possible? How could they possibly be listening? How is that? Well, I don't know, but
here's a bombshell for everybody out there, which I'm almost embarrassed to say, but I just spent over a week in New Mexico copying laboriously file after file and police report after police report and bringing it back for, my process of writing my book, Stalking the Herd, on the cattle mutilation phenomenon. And when I got home and unpacked my luggage, my entire file, about 5 pounds of paperwork, was gone.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. In fact, one of the reasons why I'm leaving in about an hour is to go kind of gather up some of the research that I don't have, that I spent a week trying to accumulate. So when people say, oh, there's nobody involved in all this, I'm not a conspiracy buff. I don't, buy into people watching me and monitoring my phones and all that. But I find it very interesting that, I take a bus from Albuquerque to Flagstaff, and I end up missing a huge file of paperwork. Nothing else except actually a bottle of water was mysteriously disappeared. So, fortunately, I didn't have original copies or original versions of these documents. I'm able to, replace them all. But it's a pain in the ass. It's like 8 or 9 hours of extra work.
Well, I've heard so many of these accounts. I just took a trip with my fiance's family back in Tennessee. Every year they go on a lake for a week, and one of the wife of her cousin was telling me that, oh, you're into UFOs. Oh yeah, my uncle shot a photograph of the countryside, and inexplicably in two of the photographs this perfect disc showed up. And they published it in the local papers. She's like, I still have the local paper, and lo and behold, someone from some government agency showed up at his house and tried to get it from him, take it away from him. And but I've heard that so many times. So there's clearly something to it.
Again, the glass is. I'm helping fill the glass. I'm not a half half-empty kind of guy, so we have to always assume a mundane explanation until proven extraordinary. But yeah, you're right. I mean, these kinds of things crop up time and time and time again, and unfortunately, I'm having to deal with the consequences of an inexplicable disappearance of 5 pounds of documentation. Go figure.
I can't really reveal names right now, but there's a very well-known, respected physicist who's delved into this subject matter on a number of occasions over the decades, and he recently approached me about some similar evidence that he said, look, I don't know exactly what I have, but whatever it is, there seems to be a keen interest from some unknown government agency with a lot of power and a lot of influence. I said, what gives you that impression? He said, well, and he gave a couple of examples of how they got in. He still has some of this stuff, but how they got into his bank vault and how they got into the lab where this analysis work was being done and disappeared on two separate occasions, this stuff. And he said, I spread it out all over the place, fearing that exact scenario. I said, well, who do you think it is? He said, I don't know. Whoever it is, they've got a lot of influence and a lot of interest in what I have.
Chris, any more questions?
Yeah, I've got a ton of questions, but here's one that I'm not sure what to make of, again from Jeff Crowell. If you could punch Josh Gates in the mouth, would you? I have no idea what that's about.
Josh Gates, isn't that the guy that was on that sci-fi show?
I don't know. Who is Josh Gates? I mean, Gene, help me out.
Wasn't he on a sci-fi show or something?
I don't know, but that and about 3 questions about how hot Aaron was. You got me there. Okay, let me see. Tell us about your BP Horizon, the Gulf film that you were nice enough to give me a preview copy of. Excellent work. I mean, what is the status of that particular project right now?
We've had one offer, one rejection, and it's funny, one of the networks said, well, it's just a little too political for us. I thought that was kind of funny. But I have entered it into the Sundance Film Festival a couple of days ago. So my fingers are crossed. We're entering into a number of other film festivals as well, sort of as a fallback position. And we are still refining it. We're still, doing some work on it. But, it's not extremely an uplifting topic, I guess.
Well, that's an understatement. Again, I know the working title, but what is the final title? Has it remained the same?
Yeah, it's Pretty Slick. And anyone out there who wants to see the trailer, you just go to PrettySlickTheMovie.com and you can watch the trailer online.
Okay, good. That's what I was fishing for. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. And we're looking for a good home for it. I mean, I spent 3 years making it, so we're in no hurry. We think it's relevant.
Well, I'm telling you, you were one of the only people that actually were able to sneak underneath the barricades and actually get the real story. I remember following your progress daily 4 years ago now, and just saying, man, this guy, I don't know how he's doing it, but he's getting the real deal. And you actually flew over the area.
Yeah, we did. We flew over the area with a marine scientist, Dr. Carl Safina, and it was apocalyptic what I saw it documented. I mean, I tell you, I just had no idea the magnitude, the scale of the spill until you fly over it and you see oil in every direction on the horizon as far as the eye can see.
What do you think of Fukushima and the recent revelations that are coming out that a minimum of 300 million gallons a day are being pumped out into the Pacific Ocean from the Daiichi nuclear plant?
That is just terrifying. The whole thing. I mean, my God.
Hey, I won't go to sushi bars anymore. I'm sorry.
Oh, my God.
I never eat sushi, so it doesn't matter. James Fox, tell our listeners where they can find more of the stuff that you do.
You can Google I Know What I Saw, themovie.com. You can go to 701themovie.com. Or you can view a trailer of my Pretty Slick film on the BP oil spill at prettyslickthemovie.com. And if anybody out there has any evidence that they'd like to submit or show me or talk to me about, or any interesting aspects to a particular case, I'm all ears.
Hey, there's $100,000 out there if you can slam dunk everybody.
Let's slam dunk this. Chris has a site called OurStrangePlanet.com. That's OurStrangePlanet.com. You can find us on Twitter, where we are known as the Paracast. We are the Paracast on Twitter. There is a Paracast fan club on Facebook. In fact, there are two under one account. We'd like to make them one. Maybe someone will help us out. You're on the Paracast. James Fox, thank you for joining us this week on the show.
Thank you guys for having me on.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible, Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in The Paracast.